course, we have Vince Dow finally here. Holy cannoli. This is audio master in chief. Okay.
So, as I said earlier in the speech, that definitely I did not like start in the middle and like cut off. So, as I was saying before, we've been getting a lot of questions. So let's answer them right off the gate by explaining why we are here. We are here because for generations, the conservative establishment has failed us, sold us out, and lied to us.
Oh my god. Bro, what the fuck was what that ear grape, bro? Jeez. I don't want to get hit with the algorithm for saying, you know, the word grape, but with the G removed, so I'm just gonna play it safe. But in regards to like that audio, holy shit, that was terrible. And accidents happen, but man, oh my god, not starting off good. Okay, let's keep going.
Let's be frank. As overused as it is, it's true. For the past few decades, the conservative movement has failed to conserve anything.
Damn!
The American family is dead. The American dream is dead. The very American nation state that we live in is dying or dead.
It is dying.
Even worse, these things did not die because they were destined to die. As a matter of fact, we as conservatives had the advantage. They died because the people running our movement, the supposed conservatives whose duty it was to literally protect these things, never even showed up to the battle. So true. So true. And we are here as Zoomers, as young people.
Okay, so here's my thing though. So in particular with the stream, should I show the entire thing, the whole 3 hours? Probably not, and because that's gonna take too long, and I only have so much free time here, so I don't know. I'm going to be skipping over parts, but I do want you to get the essence of every speech. And now that I have a new computer, I can afford to play YouTube and record my voice at the same time. Because believe it or not, my other computer fucking crashed like 2 or 3 times when I was trying this the last time in July. Okay, around the time of 7/14, believe it or not, it was a very important era in the Vince Dow saga here. Of course, my fucking settings gear is not moving, and I really do want to move the fucking playback speed here because I don't want him to bore you guys, and I'm already boring you guys. I'm going to really fix this, okay? Trust me. All I have to do here is put my mind to the shit, as Drake would say, and refresh. And we're going to be at the 6-minute mark with Vincent Dow, right? Is that true? Hold on. Okay. No, we're at the Mormon. Hold on. Let's go back a little bit. Oh shit. Okay. Settings. Finally. Playback speed 2. We're putting it at 2, guys. All right. And quality. I mean, you guys can have 720p. I'll be very generous to you guys. Not like it's very noticeable.
And we are here as Zoomers.
All right.
As young people, mainly to say that we will not let this happen again. We will not allow the same people, the same establishment that wrecked our country in the first place to do it again. Not going to happen. And that is why we are here. We are done with these weak losers. We are done with neocons. We are done with libertarians and liberals parading themselves as conservatives. And I think most importantly, we are done with the people who vaguely utter the slogans of 2016 but don't actually believe them. So the issues go further back, but let's look at where conservatives really have been since the Cold War, okay? Because that really does mark the start of the split between people like Pat Buchanan and George Bush. Boop for me, please.
Whoa! So he says boo for me, but like, okay, well, the whole Jeb Bush meme is clap for me, so he's saying boo for me? I mean, same thing, so it's pretty ironic. So far, so basically saying, you know what, I'm tired of these populist people claiming they're 2016 Trump, but they're not. And this is in contrast to the Groypers, who are, we not only want 2016 Trump, but 2016 Trump wasn't far right enough. So keep that distinction alive, okay? It's going to be pretty relevant.
At best, we have been distracted, and at worst, we've literally been self-destructive. This movement has failed on every single issue. And we obviously know about the cultural things, right? LGBT, feminism, you name it. Right. We obviously know the story there, right? But I'd argue that's actually just the tip of the iceberg. Because let's ask questions like this. How are American families doing? How's the homeownership rate? How's church attendance? How's the ability for like a high school graduate to actually raise a family on a single income? How's the social cohesion doing? How is the nation, not the empire, not the placeholder for timeless ideas, but the nation itself doing? On a deeper level, these should be the things that the real conservative movement seeks to answer, and real conservatism does seek to answer those questions. But it's not so much about all this nonsense about like small government or taxes or whatever, but unfortunately, thanks to fusionism, thanks to decades of redefinition of what it means to be a conservative, but often catalyzed by people like supposedly conservative heroes like William Buckley, Barry Goldwater, and Ronald Reagan. We just lost all hope at getting donors, just kidding. We now understand conservatism to be this stuff about like small government and freedom and all this stuff, right? But clearly this type of thinking, right, which inherently drives conservatives to not want to do anything about anything, is destroying our country through complacency. It's true. And maybe we're failing not because like the resources to save things don't exist at all, but because those who do have the resources are literally wasting them all on the wrong issues. Even today, after all we've seen, the conservative establishment still cowers. They refuse to say that critical race theory is anti-white. They refuse to ever take a principled stand on LGBT. They refuse to take a hardline stance on literally anything. But so true. So true. So true. We love Bryson. But I would say perhaps the single and greatest embodiment of the failure of the conservative establishment has been their unwillingness to even stick up against the political persecution of conservatives by the American regime.
Okay, so I just gave him a little bit of time to talk here. So far, to review it, yeah, I mean, this is pretty popular stuff on his neck of the woods, but I do have to nitpick here because obviously what else am I here to do but nitpick and disagree here. So for example, you take the conservatives not thinking about the family, how to raise a family on a single income, and honestly, this is naive. Okay, so it's like 90 IQ to be like, so like the taxes are too high, and then it's 110 IQ to say, oh shit, it's the families, bro. And they're like, let's forget about the gay stuff and the tranny stuff, bro. It's my friend, I need to raise a family on my income. Says the virgin teenager, bro. Seriously, come on, get the fuck real, bro. Like I think that that's not the biggest issue, honestly. So how are you gonna raise a family on a single income? Where are you going to get a girl that's going to sit by for the next 10 years while the politicians try to fix that, really? You think a girl's going to stand around there and wait for you to get a proper income, or is she just going to leave you for somebody else, right? I mean, this is realistic, right? Vince hasn't thought this through, obviously. So because of that, I just have to disagree. It's naive, right? Oh, we need American men to finally provide for their women. Why would you provide for a woman? 80% of them are too feminist to really even put up with that shit anyway. So again, this is already too late. All right. So my family shit, yeah. If you're 35, already have a wife, then this would help you. But if you're 18 years old, Vietnamese, you're already at a disadvantage, bro. I don't know about my single income. Like, come on, like. If you're a STEM major, that's not even the issue. So then what's the issue then? Blue collar people? Why would a girl marry a blue collar guy? Why would she? She has many more options than that. Why the fuck would she go for that? Oh, but they raised his wages. Now he's making 60 grand a year instead of 35. That's not going to change a thing, bro. Seriously. I think this is naive. But okay, we'll keep them going. We're going to keep them going.
One would think that sticking up for your own supporters as they literally have their civil liberties violated by the government would be something that the supposedly small government crowd would be all over, right? Because that's exactly what's happening today. Political persecution of conservative activists by the American regime. You obviously have people like Nick Fuentes on the no-fly list. You have people like Carpe Duncan, I don't know if you guys knew this, who's literally taken to court over a meme. And you have countless incidences of injustice and political targeting since January 6th. So,
okay, so Vince is criticizing the American regime for not protecting people during January 6th. That's kind of stupid. Why? Why would the GOP put their neck out for people that didn't follow the rules according to what they wanted? That is like saying, yo, why isn't the DNC bailing out the rioters? Seriously, it's similar to that. Why would they lose face and do that shit for what, like 200 people that are arrested or less than 1,000? I mean, in a utilitarian sense, that's completely asinine. In a cold, cynical, political way, why the hell would they do that? And third, in a principled manner, yeah, maybe they should be putting out, lawyers for them. But honestly, why would we lose face and help the January 6 people? And again, I'm not even against those people, really. I mean, storming the Capitol after they did what they did, in the previous election. I mean, things happen, but still, still, a lot of the bullshit that happened then was still seriously bad, and some of those people do deserve to be arrested. But I'm not Ben Shapiro either, obviously, not all of them. But yeah, to stick out your neck for those people is a waste of time. And the people who went in there are fools, by and large, for doing that. They probably feel really stupid right now. And the fact that Donald Trump isn't even supporting them is probably a bigger deal than the GOP, Mitt Romney, Ronna Romney, all those people not helping the January 6th protesters out. So that's not really a valid criticism. And so far, we have comments from MeFoPress saying so true. I don't know at what point you were trying to say that. Vince Dow says so true so much. I say so true ironically. So it's like quadruple irony at that point, because as I've already explained this before, but John Doyle steals catchphrases from Trump, who then and then Vince Dow takes them from John Doyle, and then I take them from Dow, but I do it ironically because I think they're dumb. Okay, so Angelo Amerigo says double speed populism. Yeah, that's the only populism I believe in.
So, and don't get us started on all of the unpersoning and corporate tyranny of other dissidents, right? And what the hell has the conservative establishment done about any of it? They refuse to say anything, okay? And it's really scary because someone like Nick basically foreshadows the unpersoning of what's going to happen to a lot of us as grassroots conservatives. And these people literally refuse to even say his name out loud, right? So, it's true. Which begs the question, right? Who's really unpersoning him, right? Is it the left, is it the regime, or is it to an extent the right? Well, I would say it's both. And even someone like as mainstream as Tucker Carlson, who we know is being spied on by the NSA, sure, he got a few people in Congress to say something about it, but largely the vast majority of supposedly conservative politicians in D.C. wouldn't even stick up for him. Which really begs the question, if you, as the supposed conservative leaders of the conservative movement, won't even stop your own supporters from being persecuted by this regime, what the hell are you here for? What are you here for? Why should you be taken seriously at all? Why should you get our blind loyalty, money, and support? Well, again, we are here to say that you are not. We owe you nothing. You owe us everything. And we're sick of you sitting on the fence as our enemies burn our country to the ground. So we are here today to retake the conservative movement from neocons, libertarians, and grifters and replace it with something that is actually conservative. We recognize that America is not simply an idea floating around in space. No. America is a nation. America is a people. America is a place, and America is our home. Our home. And that home should be protected, not outsourced, sold out, and replaced by foreigners. It's true.
Again, it's kind of ironic coming from Vince Dow, bro. We will not let our jobs be outsourced to Asian countries. Oh, shit. Oh, and we will not import other people. Who are you? A fucking Asian immigrant, bro. What? What are you smoking, cousin? And I understand, like, obviously, we're already in here. Minorities were already in here. Yeah, screw it, right? The people that are immigrants are here, and we shouldn't let anybody else in. But for me to say, like, oh, it's you fucking brown people coming in. Well, I'm fucking brown, okay? So, so it's very ironic. And that's why the Gripers made fun of APU, kind of, and it isn't really a valid point. It's just really funny to say it. I just think it's hilarious. Anyways, we have two comments from MeFoPress. One says, "Chung tong ning kong na grand dang ka ha ka ding ding tong ding 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 ching tong ding dong ding dong." I think that was a endorsement from the Khmer Rouge. Thank you, Pol Pot. Thank you, Pol Pot.
We are here to be the true vanguards of the 2016 movement. And unlike the conservative establishment, we are not here to water down that original message, but actually to build upon it. And we do not do this for clout or because it's fun. We do this because it is very clear to young.
Okay, so they're going to build on 2016. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to keep skipping because I don't want to lose a lot of juice here, so let's keep going.
I mean, I'm literally 18 years old. We put this together like a month ago, and the energy in this room is insane. We don't have enough chairs, okay? So let me say this to the establishment. Are you listening? Do you see where... Do you see where the energy is, okay? It is not on the side of the Tea Party talking points or free trade. It is on the side of America first. It is on the side of populism. It is on the side of nationalism. So true. And let me close by saying this to those who will slander us, say all sorts of names. Sorry, but this is a serious movement. We are here to stay, and so long as we do this correctly, there's literally nothing they can do to stop us. So, let me just say before I go, white pill yet again. We love to see it. Thank you very much and God bless.
So that's that speech. All right, what Zoomer pilled edits. What the fuck was that? What? This is so weird. Okay, so we have Kai Clips, the Mormon, right?
Let's go.
He's
This is
like
what the
having the
globalists
discount
do. This
Patrick
is it.
Bateman,
This is it.
minus
This
the
is how you
looks,
start. This is
obviously.
effectively an intellectual insurrection. This is a mugging of the conservative establishment line, folks. And America today can't do it. This room can do it. I ask you, what is America today other than unrecognizable? And the primary culprit of this all, as many of you know, is immigration. In 1980, 5% of the U.S. population
This
remained
is so
Spanish
fucking
speaking.
gay. What the hell?
5%.
What the fuck? Hey, I'm a 5'8" muscular Mormon that believes in fucking multiple gods and multiple universes, but I'm gonna tell you about immigration. You love to see it. No, we'll see how he says this. I don't fucking know. We'll see. So I'm gonna keep playing it, and I'll let him say what he's gonna say here. All right, 3, 2, 1.
Of the American population, 5% of the American population cannot talk to you guys. 5% of the American population will walk into your store and will not be able to order. And I'm sure any of you working knows how frustrating that is. And I will tell you later on, everything is downstream of communication. When you're trying to build a civilization, when you're trying to survive as a nation, a serious nation, you need to be able to talk to your neighbor. That's a bare minimum. That's a bare minimum. And I don't want to blackpill you guys too much, but that number today is 13%. 41 million Americans speak Spanish as their primary language. 41 million! Yeah, exactly. So entire cities have become completely unrecognizable. Entire cities, I don't know if you've been to the border, entire cities have voted to change their language, the language of their legislation, the language spoken in their town halls, to Spanish. These are American cities who are not even speaking our language. It's completely bizarre, but we all know, because we are the ones who have to deal with it, not the conservative establishment, which is why they don't get it. This country is no longer representative of the ingenuity of the American people. This country is an amalgamation of ghettos and slums where the people who no longer want to speak our language go and assemble to live in practically the countries that they came from. That is not okay in this country. We are not these other countries. This speech serves to make clear to the conservative establishment, to every single person who calls themselves a nationalist, a conservative, a populist, that America will not be anything but unapologetically American. It will be nothing else. And we will not let you turn America into any other country or any of its cities. It won't happen. Now, America has absolutely no room for Chinatowns, for Little Italies, or for places on the border which are practically being annexed by Mexico. And we all know that's happening. They're upset about the annexation of Texas. This is a tale as old as time, and that's why the war is on the people who are the ones inhabiting Texas. But Texas is hardly even Texas anymore. We all see what's happening. We see the electoral future of this country because of immigration. We see Georgia turning purple. I mean, Georgia's blue. That's Georgia. You look at Florida. The stronghold of Cubans can't hold Florida forever, because as it turns out, not every immigrant votes like a Cuban. And this is why Florida itself is swinging.
So, okay, so he's saying part of the reason why we wouldn't have immigration is because of, basically, I mean, the logic here is bizarre. Again, I don't think he knows as much as I do. And I don't want to be a douche, but I am going to say this. There's way too little immigration for it to really, like, sabotage Georgia, okay? If you're really going to blame immigration on why Georgia is blue, you are retarded, okay? Like, really. What is the immigrant... Seriously. The immigrant population in Georgia is infinitesimal compared to the immigrant population in Arizona. And yet they voted the same way in 2020, if you know what I mean, okay? So, I mean... Yeah, the immigration is a bad thing, but like to say that it is the reason why the country's turning blue is kind of asinine, because it is. Red Eagle's documentary showed this too, most recently, about the Republican strongholds of Georgia and Virginia and Colorado going blue. Only, I'd say, less than a third of the reason why they went blue was because of immigration, okay? So, if you account for immigration, Colorado... If Colorado had the demographics of 2004, it probably would be 3.5 points more Republican. So what that means is that Trump would have still lost Colorado by like almost 10 points, even with the demographics of almost 20 years ago. So if you think about it that way, it really isn't. It really isn't, honestly. The immigration that is necessarily turning it blue right now. Obviously, in 30 years, we're going to be really screwed, but as of right now, it is not really immigration that's turning Georgia blue. It is not really immigration that is making Virginia blue. It's not the Mexicans making Arizona blue. It's more so the suburbs trending as of recently, as of 2016 and 20. But, of course, he would not blame that, or he hasn't thought it through, and that's okay. I mean, a lot of people don't think about elections as much as people in my neck of the woods do. So, again, incorrect here, but we'll keep it going.
States like North Carolina, like Virginia, like Georgia, like California, which was carried by Nixon and Reagan a total of 8 times. 8 times, can you believe that? Imagine California as blue today. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. So we have no room for any of these cities that are not unapologetically American. And that is exactly what makes immigration such a baffling issue to tackle with people who don't understand this. Because the conservative establishment remains reluctant to call for any immigration restriction, which is exactly what we need. Do we need immigration restriction, folks? Exactly. Exactly. Exactly, folks. So despite the clear effect that immigration has had on the demographics of the country going forward, the economic prospects of the people in the country going forward, and the electoral outcome of the future, or the electoral outcome in the future, which is exactly what we are relying on, we all know that our lives turn to our elections. Everything that happens in our lives is downstream from who we put in office. So we have nothing to look forward to, but yet the conservative establishment says nothing on the subject. And as we realize, the conservative establishment has a vested interest in stopping immigration restriction from going anywhere. And that's because when you flood the labor supply, just like anything else in a market, you get issues. You take away the bargaining power of Native Americans to argue for better wages, to argue for better health care, to actually have enough money to sustain themselves and their families, which is why homemaking, a single household income is absolutely unattainable these days. How many of you, raise your hands, live in a house where a single parent can pay for every expense? I see 4 or 5 hands. Think about that. In the 1950s, before that,
Broke nibble alert. Nah, okay. Yeah, no, seriously though, really? Only 5? Broke, poor alert. No, anyway, yeah, I doubt it. Look, okay, let me catch up with the comments real quick. Mormons believe in multiple wives. Yes, some of them do. Little Italies are based Catholic enclaves. Chinatowns are run by based KMT supporters. I don't know what KMT means, but yeah, I think him criticizing Little Italies is kind of stupid. Like, okay, so the problem is we're having like small, like a fraction of a huge city like New York be mostly Italian. Really? Who cares? Who cares, bro? Oh, we need to keep America 100% America. Why can't we just have Little Italy, okay? Why can't we have a little Irish part of Boston, if like that's like really Irish? Or why can't we have a small Russian part of Chicago? I don't really see what the big deal is. Obviously, if half of the state's going to be Guatemalan, that's going to change the dynamics a lot. But if you're talking about like 2% of New York being Little Italy explicitly, that's not changing anything, and that's actually a good novelty to have, right? At that point, you might as well just be for banning casinos because they like marginally hurt everyone. I mean, this is just fucking silly, and I don't think he's thought this through the way that he should have. And insofar as him complaining about other people not knowing about immigration, I mean, yeah, the liberals are dumb. We get it, bro. So we'll let him keep going.
It was nearly everybody. You would never get that again because of the way that we have changed our labor laws. But recently, we've seen some establishment politicians from conservative Inc. and abroad argue for such things as an immigration moratorium. By the way, who came up with that? That was us. We came up with the immigration moratorium. We did it. Exactly. That's people like Representative Gosar who were arguing for it in Congress. That's who did it. And let me tell you exactly how they qualify their support for the immigration moratorium. Let me tell you this, because this is written, and I'm quoting here. Why is it controversial to say that America should have similarly strict immigration policies the way Israel does? Can I get a boo? Can I get a boo? The real question is why do we need to justify saving our country by saying that Israel does it? We don't need to. We don't need to justify anything saving our country by turning to a foreign country for some kind of approval. We don't need to do that. We're Americans, guys. We're Americans. And frankly, I don't care what's happening in Israel. Frankly. Thank you. Thank you. But it makes me a little bit jealous. They've got a border wall, they've got tight immigration, they're an intelligent place, we're a little bit jealous. But the only way that the conservative establishment gets around to fighting for those kind of things, in fact, remember in 2016 when the border wall was such a hot topic, half the conservatives wouldn't touch the border wall. But I'm sure if you said, Israel has a border wall, I'm sure plenty would hop on board, because that's always how it happens. These conservatives we have now are unprincipled. They're not willing to take an original position on a thing to save our country unless the people in this room and the Americans around them already agree with it. We're not looking to agree with the people who are standing up for us. We are standing up for ourselves, and they can either get in line or get out.
Okay, so KMT means anti-communist Chinese nationalist. Okay, cool. But anyways, so what he said here wasn't that. I mean, okay, well, think about it. So he's complaining that the companies are importing cheap labor so that they can't unionize. But I mean, that is sort of true, but that only really applies to limited sectors, right? So if you're a white guy in San Jose or in the in Silicon Valley, of course, importing workers is hurting you. But to say like the engineer in Oklahoma is really getting hurt because of immigration is kind of stupid. And yeah, no, I mean, this is kind of, again, just a stupid point in general. I mean, that's like saying guys with tumors are, being really oppressed. I mean, yeah, there's some, but I think he's really exaggerating it, and I think that's a lack of, perspective, and totally. And so yeah, no, it's still a bad thing. I'm just saying the way that they put it, like as if immigration were like, oh my God, this is so bad. I mean, it's like if it's the equivalent of like if somebody had a lazy eye and they're like, oh, this person is dying. Like, no, they're not. Fuck off with that, okay? So we already know immigration is not hurting our electoral chances in the near future that much. It's mostly suburban trend, actually. And he doesn't acknowledge that, and he should. What else did he say? Something along the lines of like, let me think here. Something like, okay, if conservatives don't like they need to stop appealing to Israel. But if you appeal to Israel, you're gonna need a lot of evangelical boomers on your side and donors. So why wouldn't you make the comparison to Israel and get more support that way? That is the tactful politician way to actually get stuff done. Besides, purity spiraling to impress a bunch of teenagers isn't going to help much. So again, he doesn't. I mean, he has to get out of his bubble, and then he'd probably understand it better.
And like I said before, the reason they don't care about these issues is because they're not the ones who have to deal with them. These people live in the gated communities. These people get the donors who want more immigration because they have to pay people less because the worker has less bargaining power. That's why these people don't care about these issues. But we do. So I'm here to tell you, feelings don't care about some of your facts. I don't care. Yes. I don't care that the GDP is on average increasing. When immigrants come to the country, on average, the GDP increase. What is the GDP doing for you guys? Exactly. But what is happening when you've got a neighbor who you can't even communicate with? You think that actually affects social cohesion? No, I've got a stat that says different. I've got a stat that says your lived experience is invalid. So I'm sorry, folks, you've been debunked. No, come on. You know better than that. Anecdotal evidence means something. This entire country is anecdotal evidence that what we're doing right now isn't working. But certain organizations with certain donors are going to tell you that lived experience is wrong. But we can't let them do that. So really, we have to ask, what should it be? Why is immigration so important? And how can we become the country that we used to be? By the way, what kind of country do we want to be? Because when you ask people, what's American culture? What is this country recognizable by? What is the common phrase? We are a melting pot. Boo! What? And what people don't realize, by the way, is that phrase was originally used in the 1780s. If you're anywhere familiar with the kind of immigration we had in 1780, you know that was, not much of a melting pot. That's you just threw a bunch of cheeses together. And you got like you got a fondue. That's what our immigration was back then. But the issue is, people aren't melting. The metaphor doesn't even stand up because nobody melts, which is why we're more like a salad. Because none of the ingredients are working together. This is an awful country. Who wants to have a salad? We want to be a steak, and we want all of our ingredients. Exactly. Yeah. Medium rare, cooked, crispy on the outside, raw on the inside. Raw meat's good for you, but they won't tell you that. Exactly. But of course, the melting pot is a big myth, and we all know that. And the metaphor itself, if anybody asks or if anybody says that, is absolutely incorrect. The original use was to describe a more homogeneous society rather than multiculturalism or heterogeneity or anything like that. All right, so what we've got, folks, are inevitably accusations that we have hatred for immigrants, which isn't true. We're Christian. We don't hate these people, but we hate what mass migration is doing to our country. And let me tell you, yeah, exactly. And I will be the first person to tell you that the reasons many immigrants come here are often noble, absolutely. Which is why our attack is not with those people. I mean, we're centering so much of our attack against the conservative establishment.
Okay, interesting. So he's saying, so it's not the immigrants' fault, it's the establishment's fault. I mean, I don't know. Is it the immigrants' fault? Sorta. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, they just want more money. Who doesn't want money? So we have a comment from MIFO Press saying low-skill immigration hurts the classes of American citizens who are doing the worst financially. Low-skill immigrants fill jobs that can be filled by homeless or unskilled veterans. Okay, so that is an argument. So you could say that a lot of people that... okay, well... Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about, like, the very, very bottom of the barrel, like... And it's also very weird, because right now it's extremely easy to get a minimum wage job. You could probably be a felon and get a fucking minimum wage job right now. That wasn't the case under Obama, obviously, and under Trump, actually, it was worse, but that was because the economy wasn't in some, like, weird inflated bubble of unemployment insurance. But because of that, I mean, you would really have to be a fuck up to not get a job. I'm talking, like the way they had, like, when I applied at the deli, bro, I could have been wearing a My Little Pony t-shirt and they would have hired me, bro. I mean, they're desperate, so, yeah, so the immigrants aren't really taking the jobs right now, but I mean, I do see, like, where there's, like a recession, it's like 2011, yeah, I mean, I could see that affecting hobos and veterans, sure. So, yeah, I'm going to be skipping over Kai Clips a little bit because, I've already covered a ton of what he's already said, so let's keep moving here. Hold on.
Only 2% of a representative population from each country that was already in the United States, all of that. Lyndon B. Johnson, who passed the legislation, yeah, exactly, and I quote, it will not change. Anybody leaving now? Of course not. But for the Italian immigrants that came before 1910 left our country because they understood they either had to get in line or get out. But what are we doing now? We are telling immigrants, well, you should come as you are, and your culture is awesome, and you don't need to change it at all. Not true, boo. But why are the immigrants staying here? I mean, they can take the establishment's word that they're really special and all that. But the reason immigrants are staying is because of the way immigration is now. 20% of the immigration is coming from Asia, and then 53% of the immigration is coming from Latin America, 25% of which is coming from Mexico, just on our southern border. And that's legal immigration. We don't know how bad it gets with illegal numbers, people overstaying visas and all that. So, what makes these people stay in America? Well, it's because we have a better country, of course. Isn't that obvious? None of you are fleeing out to Mexico because the standard of living in Mexico is worse. But Americans here have high standards, and we should. We expect great things from the country that we were born in. This is our country, after all. So why should we be expected to let our standards for wages, our standards for work, and our standards for the country drop to the level of the standards in Mexico? Why? We shouldn't do it. We can't let our standards drop. Thank you.
This is a fair point. Let's keep it moving, honestly. Come on. This is 3 hours,
Any
bro.
question that there would be some dual loyalties among that population? Of course not. But it's no surprise. It's absolutely no surprise. And Jefferson replies to this, and he says, this is why we should discourage their settling together in large masses. The founding fathers...
Okay, he's using the founding fathers to justify...
And we must be unwaveringly allegiant to America alone. Not what it is becoming, but rather what it was. That is what it means to be a conservative, folks. That's what it means.
Okay, yeah, let's keep moving.
Some kind of industry.
Ah, shit, I missed
Entertained
it.
by any conservative movement. We will not be the same country if we do. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hey guys, Gavin Wax here, president of the New York Republican Club. I'm also the national.
Overall, decent speech. I only dock points because I'm already like at a higher level than he is. So I mean, most of the people that go to events don't know as much as I do. So if I were like 14 years old, 15 years old, and I were in APU, I'd be pretty impressed by Kai Clips. So that was not bad at all. Yeah, I do have certain nitpicks. Again, this is I'm like Omega, fucking. I'm like prestige number 3 at this shit, and he's like he's basically like a sergeant, and I am a 3-star general. Okay, in terms of knowledge on immigration. So I do believe that pound for pound, he's doing really well. So I'll give him credit, honestly.
Spokesman for Republicans for National Renewal, who I'm joining today along with our good friends from the newly formed American Populist Union. I'm very sorry I cannot make your inaugural event of the APU this Monday here in Tampa, but I'm wishing you guys all the best. We need more organizations like this to really form some kind of infrastructure for our ideological movement to push us forward. So I think under the work of Vince, Radical Politics, and the rest of the team, you guys are doing some great work getting the message out there, building the infrastructure, building the grassroots movement to change the face of our party and our nation for the better. But to keep it brief, Vince wanted me to talk a bit about economics for you guys. We're a growing emergent movement on the right. There's a lot of different views about economics, our views, where we stand, how we can answer the issues of the day. I will start by saying I think I'm a millennial. Many of the members of this organization are Zoomers or millennials. We are lost generations. We are sick and tired of dated Reaganite neoliberal talking points. Yeah. We want some new ideas, we want some energy, and we want to see something beyond just free market absolutism. And that doesn't mean we're anti-free market. That is protectionist tariff. We want to shift domestic taxation away from just taxing everyday Americans, working class Americans, small businesses, and shift it to taxes on imports. This will bring jobs back.
Okay, so tariffs, yeah, okay, whatever.
Regulation. If we need to protect free speech, if we need to protect...
Yeah, okay, so basically stuff we've already heard before, free speech, stuff like that.
Let's go outside.
Okay, this is really bizarre. So they're promoting like a side event, the 76. Oh my, what the fuck happened here? Jesus Christ. Sorry, okay. Okay, now we're on to Nathaniel Abbott. Jesus Christ. The ear rape here. Was that on purpose? What the hell? Okay, so we have Nathaniel Abbott, also known as Cameraman Badan, and he's going to be also known as the #1 sidekick of John Doyle.
Chad Kai, I'm sorry for the distance mic. I'd like to thank Chad Kai Clips for giving the
most basic take, easily a foot taller than Vince
Dow. Immigration that no politician, congressman, senator, whatever, has matched in the last 60 years. So thank you.
Right.
I would also like to thank Chad, C.J. Trappier, for bringing God back into the conservative movement, starting this off with a prayer. And also to say
so stepping up the optics a little bit, the messy hair I don't feel strong about.
In this kid right here,
the Jesus piece, okay, so we're setting a message here, and his nose is pretty big. I just had to point that out, I'm sorry. All right.
Now, when I asked Chad King what exactly he wanted me to speak about, he just said, yeah, just speak about masculinity or whatever. Which right off the bat tells you all you need to know about the absolute state of the modern man, that I am somehow a masculine figure.
Exactly.
If you do not know, I play ukulele on the internet. As far as I can tell, I would be an absolute pansy in every generation except this one. But as you can see, we do not find ourselves in every other generation. We find ourselves in this one, and I find myself.
That might not sound like a genius point. That is so profound, and he doesn't even know it. He's basically saying, "I'm a pussy, okay, and I'm still more manly than everybody else in this generation," and that is so true. And not to flate him or anything, but like. Okay, so we have like this otherwise like wallflower dork 6'4", kind of muscular dude who isn't good looking, and he's relatively optical compared to everybody else. So we have a group of like sub 6 foot guys in APU. No offense to anybody, because I mean you don't control this, other than Abbott here, and again we have a bunch of like otherwise geeks and nerds from the 90s that are now the Chads, so to speak, because they're actually straight men that are conservative, that are vaguely Christian, that actually care about the country, whereas the left and these trannies and these queers are so fucked in the head that they're not masculine at all. So it's basically like they're Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is not even like a conservative show, but like compared to the other shit garbage there is otherwise, I mean, this is not bad at all. So very profound stuff from Nathaniel.
At the center of attention, so let's do it. So, as conservative men in a conservative movement, it is our job to do the things that other people do not want to do, which, historically speaking, what have men done? We've hunted, we've protected borders. I'm getting the distance with the mic, we'll figure it out, don't worry about it. We have protected borders and boundaries. That is effectively our job in this conservative movement, is to protect the conservative movement. As you all probably know, what's the word I'm looking for? Inclusion, there we go. As you all know, inclusion has gone far too far. The moment that I knew that inclusion had gone too far was one day I was in the library about 3 years ago, and there was a book on the shelf titled Yoga for Everybody. Now on this book, on the cover, was multiple colored figures doing different yoga poses, right? My issue was one of those figures was in a wheelchair. Now, very simply, I would like to ask any of you, would any of you like to guess what yoga position that figure was in? No, disavow. Okay, so Chad King Gabe, if you may, don't stand up, just put both your hands straight in the air. There we go, that was a yoga pose. Now, that being the case, my point being, it is our job to make sure that the people who occupy the conservative movement are actually conservative, which means that I would say, if you have drag queens dancing at your event, you're not a conservative, right? It is our job to make sure that not only are the people in our country, we make sure that we keep out those who are. We'll say that I do not care about how low your supposed tax rate is. I don't want to hear anything about small government or low tax. Plug, for a merch plug, is not conservative. Blocking me on Twitter is not conservative. Let's go! The mainstream culture or conservative thing, we need to make sure that our friends and family, we ourselves, are being held to the highest standards possible, and that is something that's very hard to do. Will bring young people, especially young men, to this movement. I need to know, as a young person, as a 14-year-old, that I, by myself, can single-handedly help save this country by comparing journalists to soy wojaks. I need to know to be in an honorable way. You do not need to justify yourselves to these people. You know you're right, because you shouldn't be here if you don't. So don't. And I will say.
Okay, so far, you know, you listened to 2 minutes of his speech. You already heard it all at this point. This is somewhat amusing. He's entertaining, and I think part of the reasons because I have it in double speed, and I'm really doing you guys a solid by putting it in double speed. You guys might be having a hard time like listening to what he's saying, but I am trying for you guys. And he's in particular very. See, he's either like really funny, so relatable, bro. Ha 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 ha. Ukulele, ha yoga positions. Oh, that's so funny, bro. But to me, I mean, you can get kind of like a douche vibe. Like he knows because there is like a sort of vibe like he's either kind of blissfully unaware that he's a douche, or like he's so aware of it that he's hoping that you're dumb enough not to notice. But it's definitely palpable in there, and I don't know. But that's just me. I don't see anybody else bringing this up, other than some friends I have that I will not disclose for now. Okay, we're gonna keep this a secret. But ultimately, this is amusing. The people in the audience like it. Chad Gabe, you know, Guidorini, supposedly, yeah, he likes it too. So let's keep it going. Finally, here. Let's skip around, of course. APU.
And if I may have visualized the tic-tac-toe game, we go like 1 through 3, 1 through 9 like this. We had X's go first. We had an X at the 1 and the 3. And
so he's having a lot of anecdotes.
We will do the hard things that need to be done to make sure that this movement, whether it be us or not, that someone will be able to save America.
Okay, so what the fuck? It was
America
that quick.
First, back. Thank you very much. That this movement, whether it be us or not, that someone will be able to save America, to bring God back into conservatism.
God back to okay, we get it. All right, I would rate Nathaniel Abbott's as a 6. That was pretty amusing.
The stage host of the DC Perspective and a suspected relative of Tucker Carlson.
That'll kill me, can only make me stronger. I need you to hurry up now.
What the fuck?
This,
The timing was
this is
awful.
a Christian nation, by the way.
Okay, so we have David Carlson from the DC Perspective.
So true.
Okay.
So true. John Adams said, our Constitution was made only for a moral and righteous people. It is wholly inadequate to govern any other. Unfortunately, we are governing with the Constitution a people that have rejected Christ. We have left it in the past. We're too advanced for that now. We're so full of ourselves. We're so deprived of morality because, as I illustrated the other night with a good buddy of mine, actually it was Nathaniel, we're falling through a void. We have nothing to ground us, nothing that's real or substantive. It's the analogy of a vacuum. If you're falling through space in a vacuum and you grab something out of your pocket and you hold on to it, you're still going to be falling, but you have the illusion of something grounding you. You have the illusion of holding on. Christ is the actual solution. He is the outer edge of space. He's something that you can actually hold on to, that you can grab onto, that will ground you in morality. It gives you truth. It gives, ultimately, he's the only one who can give justice. He is the arbiter of all things good and destroyer of all things evil. Christ is king, so true. Now, I'm not here to preach a sermon, okay? But don't tempt me. Now, Romans 1, chapter 1, verse 8 says the following. Let me actually grab this because I don't have my, it's kind of dark up here. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness. The men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, well, God figures out eventually. And in verse 26 of Romans, same chapter, God tells us what happens to these people who suppress the truth of Jesus Christ. For this reason, God gave these men up to their vile passions, for even their women I should say, whatever, exchanged the natural use of what is good and turned to the unnatural. Talking about homosexuality, guys. Likewise, also the men, having the natural use of the woman burned out of their lust, because they're degenerates and disgusting, men committed with other men what is shameful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error, which is due. And even they did not retain God in their knowledge, even though they knew who he was. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backstabbers, they're liars, they're manipulators. These are the people that turn away from Christ. They give into the flesh. They're disobedient. They're undiscerning, they're untrustworthy, they're unmerciful, they're unforgiving. They know the judgment of God, they know what they should do, and still they ignore it because they're too busy worried about what it is they want on earth, unmindful of eternal life.
Baptist preacher David over here. Holy cannoli, yeah. So, again, he's starting off, high energy. I appreciate it. I mean, there's so many people, like, compared to Trump, they have a lot of energy, and that's rare to say, actually. And I've just thought of that just now. And he is reading from the Bible, and you might think, okay, this is kind of LARP, like, come on, this is politics. Why are you talking about the Bible, bro? But this is a little bit of a... This is a novelty, right? This is kind of cool. So they kind of have their theme. There's masculinity. There's like we need the 2016 Trump back. we're anti-immigration, bro. We hate the gays, bro. No, okay. So I do appreciate that he does bring up the, like the anti-gay stuff because it is very true. People give unto their lust, and it definitely has consequences depending on what you do, obviously. And so obviously, man-on-man conduct is no bueno, and very few conservatives will point this out in 2021. But I'm glad David does. Okay, so I'm gonna give him that. And I have a question that he better be reading from the KGV. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure David is a Baptist, so I'm like 95% sure it's a King James. Okay, I think David is based on the religious question. Tom Brady is based says the religious right is cringe. Well, personally, I would say, the religious right of the 1990s were cringe because they were like, oh, we need to ban video games and rap music. Like obviously now that seems like nothing, and I mean they kicked up a lot of dust for nothing really, and it is really unfortunate that they wasted their time on that because we have way bigger issues now, and those people aren't to be found now, and they'll mostly like say the anti-LGBT stuff like to themselves, and it's really unfortunate that they had to retreat. But I mean, had they not done the stupid anti video game shit 30 years ago, you probably wouldn't have seen the religious right be so hated by people like you. And so now that the religious right is coming back, I feel like honestly it seems to me like we do need them back, but yeah, so it's up and down with these people. So Tom Brady is based also says banning corn. I don't know if I should say the word with the P because I don't know about the algorithm, but banning corn is stupid and doesn't help in elections. Well, I don't think banning corn would help you in an election, but I mean, so banning it is stupid. I mean, you could argue that constitutionally banning it is dubious, which, I mean, yeah, true. It's very arguable whether or not you could actually legally do that. But metaphysically, like in general, I think corn is bad for most people. I think it negatively affects most people after a while. And it's sort of like, junk food or eating too much food. Like, could a guy who's healthy otherwise, can a guy who works out if a guy works out a lot and eats McDonald's once a month, that's not really going to hurt him, right? So same thing. If you watch only a little bit, I would assume that you have lesser effects. But when you're letting everybody consume a lot of bad stuff, it's definitely going to rewire your brain. So banning it obviously isn't a viable path, but it's definitely not a good thing. So for example, women being whores, you can't really ban that, but it is bad. So, I mean, you have to acknowledge that there is definitely downsides to having liberty. So we're going to let him keep going.
Explains what happens to these people. They are cast into their sin. They're given to their sins. They're given to their unnatural nature, and they self-destruct. I don't know about you guys. I don't want to self-destruct. This is what we all deserve, though. We all deserve, ultimately, destruction. We're all sinners in the hands of an angry God, and nations which dishonor God will be destroyed. That is the preordained nature of Christ. Now these, thank you. Now these words that I explained in chapter, I believe 32 it is, or verse 32, chapter 1 of Romans, I think they adequately describe the characteristics and the attitudes of America. Unrighteous, sexually immoral, unnatural, haters of Christ, deviant, liars. We live under an elite class which seeks to destroy the sovereignty and the authority of God. And to call back to that analogy, we grasp for what we know is there, intuitively, we know God is there, and they kick our hand away. In many places, there are efforts to destroy Christian civilization. The Western civilization, by the way, used to be known as Christendom. What happened to that? True. They've succeeded in many areas.
Okay, so he's saying that America will be destroyed eventually. Okay, that's fair enough.
What, you don't?
Hold on.
And I want to remind you of something that I think Kai mentioned it. Wise man over there. I'm wholly impressed with his speech, by the way. Chad King, Kai Clips. He said we have to know our enemies. Vince mentioned this. We have to know our friends. We have to know who's against us. We have to be figurative. It's called the friend-enemy distinction. By the way, disgusting. People that use secularist lingo, like saying BCE instead of BC.
Yeah, BCE is cringe. So true, King. Yeah, very true.
As if that helps their point. No, I don't need to go out of God's authority to justify what I believe politically. Why would I do that? It's like admitting you don't actually fully believe it.
Okay, interesting point. A lot of people say, well, without using my religion, I will be anti-abortion. Now, it is important to develop a secular argument because, I mean, why not? I mean, it is good, to tell somebody who is not religious, okay, even if you don't care about religion, this is why it's still bad. But he's saying, well, the politicians and people that are prominent ought not to do that because we don't need to put it through a secular worldview. We can justify it through God. That is somewhat true, but at the same time, again, if we're going to pretend like it's a secular government, which we all know it isn't, but let's just pretend it is, we do have to have this bullshit of like, well, abortion kills and therefore it is murder, therefore violates the non-aggression principle, therefore it is illegal. You can't just say, well, God said it's bad, because you can't technically do that, even though it is definitely more than enough of a reason to not do an abortion. But okay, I'm going to catch up with the comments a little bit. Tom Brady says, his base says, and they push it there for their own agenda, like Exodus, cry, corn is free speech and should be left alone. And okay, so should corn be left alone? Is corn free speech? I mean, sort of, like, and also is okay, also you have to keep in mind, is free speech a religious thing? Does Christianity promote free speech? Honestly, does it really? Does the Bible ever promote free speech, saying whatever you want without legal consequence? It doesn't really say either way, as far as I know. And if anything, it restricts you from saying vulgar things. So in general, I would say that free speech is not Christian at all. I mean, you could have free speech and be Christian. I'm just saying that it's not religiously backed. Just like using Tomahawk missiles isn't religiously backed in particular, but I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with shooting a Tomahawk missile and crashing it into space. You know, I mean, whatever. So I'm just pointing that out. So you can't really justify corn by Christianity at all. Or, you know, so, I mean, you can make a secular argument for letting it be a thing, letting it exist. But, yeah. So using free speech as your underwriting argument is only working in a secular sense, but not in a religious sense. So we're going to let David keep going here.
Sovereign, authoritative God. Get rid of these people. They gotta go. They're the enemy. They're not our friends. And by the way, let me just, another aside. I was talking to Nathan last night. Such a good conversation. And Nathaniel, my bad. What the hell's up with libertarians? Because we're talking about that vacuum, right? That vacuum that exists. They don't believe, many of them don't believe in God. Some of them do, tacitly. They acknowledge, like, oh, Jesus Christ might have been a thing, I don't know. And then, like, at least like the communists, they're like, yeah, God doesn't exist, but the highest authority is the state. The libertarians are like, God doesn't exist, but there's no higher authority, so do whatever you want. It's cancer. It's a cancer to our society. Go forth and use the law adequately. You know. So, that's how we do it. Perform the fruits of our labor. But ultimately, we know that God will win. Because ultimately, he's the... Yeah, nice. We have to understand that this is more, and this is not a fight between left and right. This is not a fight between just good and evil, but this is a fight, this is a spiritual fight between the Antichrist and Christ. This yourself to his authority and follow his decrees, his commandments, and go forth and make disciples of all nations. How are we going to be moral or righteous people? I'm David. Thank you very much. Vince. David Carlson. Thank you very much for having me. Oh, you can follow me on YouTube at DC Perspective.
My name is Shashank President of the American.
Whoa, pause. Okay, good speech from David. Yeah, I like the religiosity. I actually like it hearing it the second time over the first time. I don't know why. But being able to skip over the crowd, I think saying things helps a lot. See, the crowd likes to repeat a lot of shit, and so that annoys me a little bit. But yeah, we're gonna keep going. So far, David has a really solid speech. You could argue that it's better than Nathaniel so far. The content was really good, and I know personally that David is pretty religious, so he does know his stuff on this. So yeah, Angela says he liked it. Yeah, okay, yeah, true. Tom Brady, his base, says Michael Sisko's a LARPer and is absolutely cringe. I mean, you could say that. I don't know enough about Michael Sisko to say like he's completely cringe, but he says he's religious, so I don't know.
If you haven't heard me, probably because I did a legal back end of the organization, I don't make too many public appearances. I wanted to get down to Tampa, but sadly things got on the way, so I do apologize for that. Luckily, I'm pretty sure if you walk into any 7-Eleven in the area, you can find a suitable replacement. But to get into the actual things, the reason the APU was founded was because our nation is going on a very dangerous path. The establishmentarians don't seem to care, and in fact get in bed with the forces that they're supposed to be stopping. Conservatism has been diluted by them to an almost unrecognizable point. They fill it up with globalist interests and then hide behind the thinly veiled phrase of patriots. Here at the APU, we do not simply call ourselves patriots, we call ourselves nationalists. Because while other conservative organizations might be too scared to utter the word lest they upset their donor base, we are not beholden to special interests or mega backers. We're grassroots populists who love our nation and treat it as a family, and do not want that family to get exploited. The fact that all of you are with us today at APS proves that the spirit of American resurgence and renewed nationalism is still alive. I'll cut this short because I know that there are a lot of better speeches coming, so thank you for coming, and God bless.
Hey everybody, Anthony Sabatini here.
Okay, so that is a small interjection from I think technically the owner of APU is actually Shashank Yalamanshi, also known as Curry Obama. I just made that up. But yeah, so he he did his thing. Personally, it is pretty embarrassing that the owner of the thing couldn't go. I do know the background to that, so I don't think he had much of a choice. So I guess that was like, not an accident, but definitely he had a good excuse to not be there. So emergency has happened, very true. So I'll give him a pass. It's far about him saying like, hey, we're not patriots, we're nationalists as well. I think that's a good point. A lot of people made fun of Shashank just because he's Indian and he's a part of APU, which yeah, ha 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 ha, that's pretty funny, but like that's not a legitimate criticism. So I will say that having an Indian as a part of your movement is not good optics if you want to get these white teenagers on your side, but ultimately those people aren't serious, right? So if you're gonna say APU is cringe because they have minorities in there, that is kind of funny, but seriously though, that's not a valid criticism. And if you actually think like, oh, you can't be a nationalist and a minority, that's ridiculous, and I don't want to call people racist, but that is literally what it is. So I don't want to be a little bitch about it, but yeah, it's definitely not okay to do that. So yeah, no, fair game with Shashank. He had an above average speech. You can tell he didn't put a lot of effort in it, but he's high IQ, so I appreciate that. AHYRQ says, I like your speech. I don't get it. Tom Brady says, Anthony Sabatini should have run for Senate. What do you mean, for like against Marco Rubio? I don't know, man. I don't know about that.
State Representative District 32, Florida House of Representatives. I want to thank you guys for coming to the free state of Florida, the best state in the nation, and it's really an honor to be able to speak to you guys. I wish I could be there on Monday, but I can't. I got to go back to some civilian obligations that I have, and actually it's my National Guard training, so I'll go do that. But I'll be back. Listen, most of the Republicans we have are complete and total cowards and need to be primaried and thrown out of office immediately. Most of them need to be deported, to be quite honest with you. They're an embarrassment to our nation, right? They're cowardly, they're weak, and they are really, really bad at winning. What we need is fighters, right? And we don't need just fighters fighting the Democrats. Everybody can fight socialism. I get it. We got to fight socialism. Obviously, that needs to happen. But you got to hold accountable your own side too. You need people who stand for the Republican establishment and also do that. And the problem is most Republicans don't have the goose. They don't have the Republican, fighting spirit to do that. They would rather just, sit idly by and wait to be told what to do. We need people who are going to hold all sides accountable. Make sure that the America First movement is moving forward. Let me tell you what I mean by the America First movement. The America First movement is what I call the principles of 2016, right? The principles that got Donald Trump.
Okay, so more 2016 support. Again, I don't want to spend 3 hours here, so I need to skip around. Okay, sorry. Shit. Okay, anyways, yeah, from what I heard of Sabatini's speech, it was solid. He's a great politician.
Vision for the future.
All right.
America First Media is taking the resources that we were blessed with here by Divine Providence and channeling them and harvesting them to
The audio is too bad. I'm not going to be able to hear this.
lines overseas to benefit from that cheap slave labor that will give Americans more access to cheap goods here at home. Instead, what they did was they really just saved the top CEO class, essentially the billionaires, a bunch of money because they don't have to pay American workers anymore. That flooded the zone with cheap Chinese goods, gave us access to that, but it killed off the ability for a American to graduate high school and then be able to.
Okay, so he's making the point that Chinese high school immigrants are taking the jobs of high school graduate Americans that want to get a better degree or whatever. Yeah, that there's niche cases, and he is from Oregon, so I suppose that there are more Asians in that area. So yeah, definitely that. Or no, he's from Washington actually. Okay, that makes even more sense then. Yeah, so he makes that point. Now, that was a pretty long speech, even though I was skipping a lot. So here we go. We'll give him the last 20 seconds here. Sorry.
The America First platform, really again, just putting our people first, bringing back manufacturing, strong immigration, limited foreign intervention, and then really again putting the American family as the focal point of what we are concentrating on strengthening. So I hope that helped. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Look forward to interacting with you guys much more. So thank you very much for your time.
So that was a good look to have the future congressman, probably Joe Kent. Again, you need a lot more people like Joe Kent in APU because, again, not no homo, but having good-looking, kind of serious-looking white guys, that's going to help you. But this is a young movement as well, so having these guys in the periphery aren't a bad idea. So good on the APU staff or whoever for getting the future congressman on there. I assume that was Vince Dow, maybe it was Shashank, who knows. That was good overall, though. I like that. So now we're going to have Red Eagle speech. So we'll see here.
Is falling apart. Our culture, our traditional values, our infrastructure, the middle class, masculinity, all being gutted for the benefit of the elites, the donor class, mega corporations, and the special interests. You would think that the American conservative movement would be working hard to fight against this, but instead they're apathetic towards it, and their apathy makes them complicit in our national decline. Conservative politicians, think tanks, and student organizations care more about appeasing the left than the hardworking people that support them. They're no better than the opposition, and in many cases they are worse than the opposition.
Yo, bruh! Yeah, okay. The way I said that was pretty cool. The vocal fry, come on, you gotta like that. What was it, vocal fry, or was it the mic? Okay, I'm not a girl. Anyways, let me catch up with the chat real quick. I like your speech at the APU. I don't know what you're referencing, AHYRQ. Tom Brady's base says in 2024, Sabatini should have primaried Rick Scott because he likes Marco Rubio. Maybe. That seems kind of like a long shot. He also says Trump's 2016 never left. He is just more presidential. That is a little bit of a cope, honestly, because, yeah, I know what you're saying, but at the same time, he is a little bit more jaded, I think. So he's like he's not so much frustrated and angry. He's more so depressed now. So you have to get the emotion of where he's at to understand why the energy is different from 2016. So it is different. And it isn't that he's being more presidential, because if you look at 2016, he had certain speeches where he tried to come off more professional, and you could tell that the energy was still different in the way he said the words. Okay, so it's not quite. We'll let Reddy go. Oh yeah, wait, shit. Oh, he plays copyrighted music. I need to go ahead and skip a little bit.
Thank you. Okay,
all right.
how exactly this mic works. Okay, there we go. I think
there we go.
Hello, Tampa. Wow, what a crowd. It's great to be here at the first ever American Populist Summit. They tried to shut it down, but it didn't happen. Let's go! I'd like to thank Vince Dow. It would not be possible without this man. He has been working overtime, and he gave a great speech. It had a great cadence to it. It was awesome. All right. Okay, wait, what just happened? I don't even know. Okay, it's great to be in the city of Tampa, home to the Super Bowl and Stanley Cup champions. It was once the city of despair, now it is the city of champions, and just like the city of Tampa, that will be what the conservative movement is when we get rid of a lot of those losers next door. A great man once said, namely myself, that America is only as strong as its weakest conservative. And when the conservative establishment is recklessly driving this country off a cliff, we are far from strong. But I must say, I look up here tonight and I see leaders. The American Populist Union has potential. This is only our first conference. We weren't even a thing like 2 or 3 months ago. And look what we're doing. Look where we are. So it's awesome. We're joined by great conservative leaders as well as future congressmen. I think it's a great thing. But you see, the conservative conference next door is headed by TPUSA, which was relatively nowhere in 2015, but they were already sitting down with Trump in 2017, 2018. So you look at where we'll be in a couple of years, I think the future is very bright. It's a bright future.
So far, good entrance by Red Eagle, the Drake Forever song. That's pretty cool. Again, I didn't want to play that because of copyright or whatever, so I have to play it safe here nowadays. But yeah, definitely good optics. So far, the graphic is better than Kai's for sure. The forehead is a little big, whatever. And again, better optics than most people because of he's not 5'6" and he is a little more built. And this is important for optics. Okay, if Joe Kent were a 5'6" fat black dude, it would be over for him, okay? Nobody cares. A person like Jeremy Bell from Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, or is it Jerome Bell? Sorry. Yeah, Jerome Bell. This black guy. He doesn't have the look that Joe Kent does, even though they have very similar platforms, and yet one's getting a lot more attention than the other one. And that's simply the black pill on the optics, okay? So keep that in mind. So pretty good. And I'll let him keep going. Other than I have one thing to say here, and that is that he's saying, okay, well, TPUSA in 2 years went from not being associated with Trump at all to speaking with them at the White House. The big difference between APU and TPUSA is that TPUSA was funded by, given millions of dollars, I think, from mainly Foster Freeze, who's a old guy who gives money to the GOP, and donated it, I think, to Romney and maybe Trump at some point, but ultimately gave money to Charlie Kirk in his mid-20s or like early 20s actually to really get in there and start something big, whereas they're not starting with a budget really, and I don't know who's going to give them millions of dollars out of nowhere. And those establishment people that aren't nationalists, are they going to give them money like TPUSA got? I doubt it. So could they be there in 2 years? I really hope that they do, but we'll see. So yeah, definitely keep in mind the corporate funding.
You see, the sky's the limit. It truly is. Donald Trump gave us a beacon of hope back in 2016, a beacon that we could truly take on the establishment and win. He ran so we could walk. He united the conservative movement behind him. But now that he's no longer in office, the cracks in the surface begin to show. We are a movement at a crossroads, a movement that has 2 main factions struggling for its control. One movement seeks to reclaim the spirit of 2016, one that is authentically conservative and unabashedly America first. America first! America first! We want to limit intervention in Damascus to focus on rebuilding Delaware. We reject the evils of corporatism and globalism. We want to put Main Street over Wall Street. We want to restructure our trade deals to support American workers. We want our troops on the southern border, not Iran's borders. We care about cultural preservation and preserving the true conservative values and principles that our forefathers lost their lives fighting for, which the opposition tries to rail against relentlessly. We believe that America is worth saving and can be much greater than it is now, but only if we act right now. It can be said that every great civilization lasts for 340 years, meaning that the current downfall of our great traditional American society marks the beginning of the end. Yet we could easily correct course if we wanted to. And it would be so easy for us to do if the right wing in this country was on the same page, but it's not. In fact, it seems that the only conservative political victory in recent decades was the downfall of the Soviet Union. And that event didn't really impact everyday Americans, and it probably was going to happen sooner than later anyways. One win since 1957 makes us the political equivalent of the Detroit Lions.
That is a hard ouch, man. Jeez, we're the political equivalent of the Detroit Lions. That is embarrassing. Big time embarrassing. So yeah, of course, he's from Michigan. He makes the Michigan reference. Yeah, that's very true. Detroit Lions suck. Unfortunately, I will point out that Red Eagle does have a good cadence, and again, I don't want to kiss his ass, but it is definitely better than a lot of these speeches so far. And okay, so money for Main Street, not okay, and then we want the troops in Mexico or on the border, not on Iran's border. I mean, this is very popular stuff. You can't really go wrong with this.
Believe me, having lived in Michigan my whole life, that is not anything that any political movement should ever aspire to be. We need to develop the Brady mindset. We need to go on offense. We need to go on offense, and we need to play to win and strive for victory. Donald Trump ran a great campaign back in 2016, the greatest political campaign of our lifetimes, undoubtedly. And the entire conservative movement has no choice but to support the man at this point, which is true. Yet bad faith actors who rejected his original message of victory and inauguration was about liberals crying at the inauguration and socialists. These people make up the other faction of the American right. The other faction of the conservative movement vies for the days of 2004, the days of a pre-Trump conservative to it. They value things like free trade and an interventionist foreign policy. They have never met a war they didn't like. They want mass migration. They see it as a benefit to our country. Compromise on every single social issue in order to appease the left. They hold some beliefs that make 2008 Obama look like a right-wing radical by comparison.
Great point. The right wing is to the left of Obama's public statements in 2008. Obviously, that doesn't really include the fact that okay, let's be completely honest here. Barack Obama 2008 was lying about his gay marriage stance, but still, the public position for the Democrats back then was still anti-gay marriage. The transgender thing wasn't even a topic, so we'll just give him that. So, I mean, us Republicans are arguing about transgender women's sports. Like, really, this is so pathetic. It's really embarrassing, frankly. And the Mexicans who are losing to us in most other issues are really kicking our ass when it comes to the social ones, in particular abortion and the gay stuff. And frankly, it is really embarrassing that we're at this level now. Seriously, it's really bad. So let's keep going now.
They call themselves conservatives, yet they conserve nothing at all. They are truly afraid of power, and they truly seek to conserve what they call limited government and the free market, whatever the hell that means. It's not a free market. It's filled with these big tech giants and monopolies that infringe on small businesses and our individual rights. It's not free, okay? They put the donor class before the working class at every turn. They answer to what's best for the political elite and the mega corporations instead of the people who actually vote for them. They are unwilling to adapt to cater to solving the problems that the conservative base is concerned with today. They are so out of touch with reality, so much so to the point where they don't understand basic political strategy whatsoever. They don't care about our culture or traditional morality. They operate within the left's Marxist moral framework that is designed to facilitate the defeat of any and all conservative ideas. They seem content with losing our country so long as they get to keep racking in the money while doing nothing to solve any problems that their base is concerned with. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
So pretty populist. We'll skip over some of this stuff that we already heard.
And are content with the mass degeneracy that is being promoted in our society and culture. And then there's Populist Inc., who seeks to co-opt and undermine the rising populist elements of the American right in a mundane, establishmentarian manner. The free market dogma, espoused by many in the conservative establishment, seems to be the only issue they care about. Look over there. We saw slogans such as, "I heart free markets," and "Socialism sucks." Like, exactly. We already covered that, though. Okay. Hey. So true. So true. Hey, it's not your speech. Sit down. Sit down. Thank you. It's not your speech.
Yo, based.
All right. He's right, though. He's right. We hear about the importance of capitalism and how our most important issue.
Bam. Okay, so this is an important moment. Obviously, this annoying fuck stands up and tries to say shit like, come on, this is not your speech, you little punk, right? Yeah, definitely really cringe. But yeah, Red Eagle did shut him down, so that's good for, yeah, so Jack shut him up. And so far what he said, yeah, they're basically getting donor money and cucking on the issues constantly. That's very true. Trying to beat the left at being the left, definitely big complaint there. So he can't really go wrong here, but let me keep up with chat. If a Republican candidate solely focused on Christian values and being anti-corn, he will only improve in Mormon states and gain no support. I honestly don't know. That's like, see, nobody's ever tried to say like, I'm going to ban corn as a politician, so I have no idea. I mean, I'm assuming that there's more people, more people watch it than don't. So then I assume they're going to piss off more people than they would appease. So, I mean, yeah, technically that could be true, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't care though. It's not. I don't think anybody's in the near future is going to be openly anti for banning. I mean, promoting anti-corn and going to ban it. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. So it's not a big deal. Tom Brady's base also says Twitter populists were focusing on transgender people in sports, including Red Eagle. Well, I mean, we do have to fight the left on all the issues right now. But he is also saying, okay, so for example, imagine if you're fighting the Chinese and you're trying to defend the Chinese from taking Denver, okay? You're basically the soldier saying, like, why the fuck are we fighting in Denver? Why are we not fighting in Shanghai? Why the hell are we back here? We should be fighting way over there. So Red Eagle is fighting against transgenders in girl sports while also saying you know what, we should be debating gay marriage, we should be debating the 19th Amendment, we should be debating equality in general, we should be debating abortion. Why are we debating transgenders in girl sports that we don't play and we don't care about? So I don't think he's being a hypocrite. I mean, obviously we need to hold the ground while we have it, but I mean to say like we should be further ahead than where we are now is obviously not a contradiction. That is definitely true. So I don't see where he went
Should
wrong.
be the deficit, the GDP, and low taxes. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a socialist, I'm not a fan of socialism, and I like low taxes. That stuff is important too, I guess, but the truth is that the conservative establishment, if they fought as hard as they did for our free market, if they fought as hard as they did for that for the 50 years, and arguably to our detriment, we are more than our economy. As the great governor of this state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, said, you can have an economy with great GDP growth, but if the underlying factors of the culture are not healthy, then it's not a healthy society. So true. It's true. It's going up or not. And the conservative establishment is too afraid to wield power to actually solve the real problems facing our society today. Let's consider the current state of the American identity. We stand for absolutely nothing. Nothing. We're letting in 1 million new immigrants every single year, and they aren't assimilating. And if they are, they're not assimilating to the United States of America. They're assimilating to the globalist American empire, and it's a very sad thing to see.
See, this is a good point, and this is actually even better than what Kai was saying, because Kai Clips was complaining, okay, well, these new immigrants aren't assimilating to American culture, and it's like, okay, but American culture isn't the end-all be-all, right? We have problems, especially the culture nowadays. Now, the culture 70 years ago was a lot better objectively, but now it is getting really bad. So, you know, should a Mexican really believe in feminism the way America, officially the government, supports feminism? Should it really be pro-LGBT? You know, should an immigrant come here from the Middle East and support LGBT? No, obviously not. Maybe obviously not kill those people, you know, tone it down a little bit. Obviously Sharia law is to the right of where I am on that issue and where Jack is, but definitely even if these immigrants don't assimilate, I mean, if they are assimilating, they would be assimilating to a lot of bad things as well as the good things. So, I mean, you definitely have to keep that in mind, okay? So, great point.
The neocons in the movement have avoided the issue of immigration at every turn. Some will attack illegal immigration, acting like if a piece of paper is involved, everything is magically fine. But most continue to ignore it altogether. If not, they want an increased amount of immigration. So true. Some conservative leading influencers have called for up to 50 million legal immigrants over a 10-year span, so long as they come legally. They don't see America as a group of people with a common interest or identity. They see soul to increase profits for their donors. Firm that immigration lowers wages for native-born workers. The average of all the studies shows that for every 10% increase of immigration, there is a 5% decrease in earnings. However, those at the top, their profits are going up, their gains are going up, but we're losing. And the truth is that it sends a message loud and clear to the American people that we simply aren't good enough for them.
Okay, this is actually good content right here. He's giving you specific numbers here saying if immigration goes up 10%, then the wages will go down 5% for the actual workers that are American. So if I'm working in Silicon Valley and I started working and I, for whatever reason, don't get a promotion in these 10 years, but in 2010, I'm making $150,000. And they add in 10% more Chinese immigrants that have engineering degrees and Filipino immigrants, Indian immigrants. And even if they don't take my job, they're adding a downwards pressure because they're getting paid less than the white people. So in that case, I'd be making 5% less because over 10 years because of the immigration population changing about 10% in those 10 years. So it would be, instead of making 150 grand, I'd be making somewhere like in the 140 range. So I'd be making marginally to substantially less money. And it depends on the sector you're in, obviously. But yeah, definitely it does hurt gradually over time. So not good.
And apparently the elites also think that our beliefs aren't good either. They see traditional America as backward and detrimental. Not only does mass immigration hurt American workers, it is probably the only form of voter suppression that actually exists. New immigrants statistically vote overwhelmingly Democrat, and policies like amnesty for illegals, statistically, will make several states permanently blue overnight. If you lose Texas, Arizona, Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina for good, there is no path to 270. You would think that even the establishment conservatives would be against this, given the fact that mass immigration puts them on a path to electoral irrelevancy. Instead, they cheer this on because they're fine with losing, so much so they get to play the Washington Generals of every election cycle, racking in the donor cash while their voter base suffers. Meanwhile, many members of Populist Inc. ignore the issue altogether and focus on the mundane idea of a multicultural working-class populism that only entails slightly reining in corporations and nothing more. They don't care about the American identity. Yet given the fact that mass immigration has a negative effect on the American worker and a net positive on the American corporations, it is clearly evident that they have no sense in priorities, proving that they are controlled opposition and nothing more. It is not conservative or populist to support mass immigration. We must not stop fighting until we have achieved net zero or even net negative migration. The American people must come first, no matter what. America first. Our rising single motherhood rates are exploding. We teach our children to hate this country and our founders' visions for a prosperous society. Our politicians don't care about any of this. Many of them cheer it on. Their interests are global, not at home. They don't see borders. They see money. Many of these so-called conservatives are complicit in this as well. People like Frank Luntz single-handedly got America addicted to opiates by pushing oxycodone as a miracle drug in the 1990s.
Okay, so far, okay, single mothers are bad. True. I mean, he's saying a lot of true things. He's pointing out the immigration will make a lot of states blue. So he says what Kai Clip says, but obviously with more nuance because Red Eagle knows more than Kai. But insofar as the immigration thing, yeah, I mean, over time the immigration will screw us again. Like between now and 2024, the suburbs matter more than immigration in terms of the votes, honestly, in the swing states. But I do understand that in 20 years. Even if we win the suburbs, Texas will be really hard to crack for Republicans, so keep that in mind, and that is true. Now, he said that Frank Luntz pushed opiates in the 90s, which I don't remember. Obviously, I wasn't around then. Nobody was really, but in APU, I mean, did he get people addicted to opiates? Not really. Now, again, people getting shilling for pharmaceuticals that have side effects is a bad thing morally insofar as they're indirectly leading a lot of people to do bad things, and they know for sure that they're doing that. So it's not like, oh, I accidentally got people addicted. It's like, you know for a fact that if you got 20 people on oxycodone, that 15 of them might not get addicted, but 5 will. So I mean, that is really bad. So yeah, no, definitely. Now, single-handedly did he get America addicted to it? I mean, that's obviously hyperbole, but yeah, I mean, Frank Luntz is a little bitch. I mean, and by little, I mean
They ship your jobs
fat.
overseas. They get our country addicted to opiates. They boost corporate profits via free trade and mass migration. And send your sons off to die in wars for their benefit. Not for our benefit, for their benefit. And these are the same people that were calling Donald Trump immoral or a threat to America because he called some women fat 20 years ago. It's ridiculous. It's true. It's true. It's true. We don't value the family anymore. The family is the most efficient self-governing unit of society. When you weaken the modern man, you weaken the family. When you weaken the family, you produce weaker and weaker individuals every generation. This makes society easier to control for the benefit of the elite. Either at the moment. Conservatives are too afraid to take action on the immoral decline of our society. So conservatives, they're afraid to take action, and they don't understand the priority to control us. Then we need to be wielding power to ensure our freedom and our prosperity. It is insane how self-deprecating and self-loathing we have become. Some influencers on the right whine about this on social media, while others, like Dinesh D'Souza, cheer it on because Andrew Jackson happened to be a Democrat. Exactly. Now, the truth is we need to be wearing our history and our heritage on our sleeve proudly. Our forefathers were great men with great ideas and had great vision for our nation. And they would be ashamed of what we've become. We have one side that will not rest until everything in our society is remotely deemed offensive is either changed, replaced, or destroyed. Our opposition strive for a society, nation, an economic zone that return push anti-white social Marxism to put Mexican kids on no-fly lists that actually help the American workers struggling to get by. We do not stand for the globalist American empire. We stand for the United States of America. Change is good, they say. They call it progress. They call it revolutionary. Yet that very change is exactly what is destroying us. And the conservative establishment, they're letting it happen. How are they just doing this themselves? I don't even understand it, but it is what it is. And our founding father, George Washington, everybody knows him, everybody loves him. We would not be here without him. But George Washington is being replaced by George Floyd. Abraham Lincoln is being replaced with Kamala Harris. So true. And election day is being replaced with election month. Now, conservatives may whine about it now, but 5 years from now, they'll be talking about how sane the Democrats that are doing this today were so sane. It's ridiculous. It is. I say these 2 words. No more. Country. It's not. None of these people are capable of it. Our movement and country generations are counting on us. So let's not let them down. The truth is that the actions of all people matter, other people in society, and we should be caring about the well-being or to tell us that we need a cope shield to enter a Walmart. But it can be used, however, as a last resort. America, except Mormons, and when you have, when you have multiple wives, it obviously makes sense. You have more kids, right? It is. Very few countries in the West have tried to reverse this downward spiral. But Viktor Orban's Hungary is a shining example of so increased wages for their husbands. It's true. And people are going to say on the right, you can't do that. It's socialism. It's socialism. It's not socialism. It's survival. And with a system, again, that brags about being fortified against us, this is beloved among many, is because he is unabashedly a man of action. He may not be as effective in Washington as president as he is right now in Florida, but his rise is undoubtedly parallel to the growing drive of people on the right who want leaders who take action to make action. Works too. It's true. But a lot of times it just means standing your ground. Stop caving on the fact that marriage is between a man and a woman. Stop caving on the fact that traditional gender roles should be encouraged. Stop caving on the fact that America is a Christian nation. Christ is king. Christ is. And when we cave on these basic issues, the level of degeneracy in our society needs to stop now. And again, when no viable alternative to the current culture is provided, and when many counterculture figures are censored, if just a few 100,000 young people like you and me were well-adjusted and disciplined, not just politically, but in their personal lives as well, the opposition would not know how to handle us. They would medication. a life free from a managerial state and an elite gone rogue that would destroy the principles that made this nation truly great to begin with. And conservatives that cave in at every turn are the people who our ancestors looked down in disappointment the most. It's true. 5 years prior on social issues. If we do, we will degenerate further. And we see many leading influencers like low IQ Tommy Lahren coming out in full support of a certain individual for governor of California. It's true. Community's view on transgender individuals are, but it's not a very high approval rating. In fact, Hispanic voters and black voters were why gay marriage failed in California in 2008.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this is true now. I'm struggling to keep watching this. Obviously, I've been sitting here for so long, my butt hurts, but okay, we're going to keep going. Yeah, so Redigal has been very spot on here. He's hitting all these notes. Very important, very impressive so far. Anti-Caitlyn Jenner, very true. Bruce Jenner, disgusting. Tom Brady's base says America does not have a state religion and never will. Okay, who cares? America is a Christian nation, more or less, just like how America is a white nation, more or less. Okay, like, come on. It doesn't have to be by law, but we understand this. He also says degenerates have been around for years. Yes, but okay, in living memory, it's been getting worse. Okay, so like as of like the last 50 years, most social issues have gotten worse. Okay, there are more gay people. There are more trans people. There are more abortions than there used to be, or as a rate. And the country is getting worse in general on social issues. Now there's some exceptions. Maybe the gun laws are getting better. Maybe the economy's doing better. At least under Trump it was. I mean, yeah, there's certain things we're winning on, but ultimately, on a lot of basic issues we're losing, even on the concept of sex and gender. I mean, it's very pathetic, and I really dislike that. And Redigal's right in that, and Josh, okay, degenerates have been around, yes, but it's different. So in the 90s, gay people were still a thing, but they at least were in the closet. And by the closet, I mean they were like not that obvious about it, okay? So it wasn't so annoying, all right? Even I remember when I was a little kid, right? In the late 2000s, there was gay people around, obviously, but they were less obvious. They weren't wearing dyed hair as much back then. They weren't piercing themselves as much back then, okay? They weren't wearing such weird makeup like James Charles. Like, they weren't that bad compared to now. So, yes, there's been degenerates. And, of course, there's been terrible stuff in the past, right? But it wasn't this bad, okay? And you can go back and say, well, 200 years ago, men wore wigs, and so, I mean, by that logic, they're trans, and it's like, no, you understand what you're saying, right? I mean, things were really different back then, and yes, there was degeneracy, there were brothels 200 years ago, there was probably prostitution in Las Vegas in the 1930s, but that doesn't distract from the fact that things in general were better, okay, in living memory. By living memory, I mean like the last 50 years, right? So, yes, things are getting worse, and degenerates have been around, but at least the degenerates back then knew how to hide it better. Maybe they would only come out at midnight, when the kids were asleep, or they wouldn't show themselves in front of children. Maybe they wouldn't be reading to your children in public schools and in libraries, as people in drag. So, I mean, it was not as bad, okay? I mean, this is just clear. Tom Brady also says, not all LGBT people are weirdos. Even some LGBT people are starting to hate the movement. No, every single gay person and queer is a weirdo to an extent because they're not fulfilling their natural role in society by procreating and doing normal things. Now, I do understand there's some gay people that aren't as annoying as the other ones. There's gay people that aren't as disgusting as the other ones. There's people that only like men and that are men. And there's also really depraved ones that are, for men, women, children. I mean, there's levels to it. Obviously, there's a spectrum here. But I'm telling you in general that most LGBT are weirdos, and I'm not going to back down from that. Okay, and and we can't have this stuff. It's going to destroy the country eventually. It's going to basically make us decay slowly as we are right now. And Redigal is right. So let's keep going with him.
I love Hispanics. Yes, I do. So true. But to think that a transgender candidate would be electable based off of this fact alone is below taxes, right? Yeah, I know. It's true. But the modern conservative movement in this country would rather sacrifice every social issue to imagine to build what they believe to be a big tent. These libertarian, liberal Republicans. These people, they're insane. I mean, this one woman on Twitter, she blocked me. From New Hampshire, forgot her name. I think it was Doctor something. She wants to go after the transgender vote. It's insane. It's like, yeah, that's totally gonna win us elections. Yeah. It's not a big tent what they're building. They're building a clown car instead. A clown car that doesn't welcome its original, traditional, conservative, Christian voter base. Anyone can vote any way they want. This is true. But if you're going to be gatekeeping actual conservatives, they say no infighting. You infight too much. You can't talk about primarying, or you attack the right more than you attack the left. And honestly, I think it's an insult to my intelligence when people are going to be making such statements. It is. Speaking of primarying politicians, they work for us. We don't work for them, okay? They work for us. The American people are tired of answering to the needs of those people who routinely screw them over. It's true. And as for attacking the right, you can't put out a house fire when the fire truck is on fire. You just can't. Can't do it. But I see leaders here tonight. I see true leaders who have the ability to take away the mantle from the establishment and to make actual change necessary to save this country. And I think that that is a very good thing. I do. The swamp runs deep, and they undoubtedly have a lot of resources. But let it be known that we can do this. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It's true. They don't. And we will continue to stand up for traditional values. We will continue to stand up for the American worker. We will at the very latest, that I can promise you. So anyways, guys, I'd like to thank you all. Thank you all for being here. And it is Doyle time, I think.
That was Red Eagle speech right there. Pretty good, really solid. Actually, probably the best speech so far. He hit so many different notes and topics, and I like that. The delivery was better than most so far. You know, the optics were better than most so far. Yeah, so definitely really solid stuff from Red Eagle here. We're going to go on to the next person, and this is going to be a pretty big one, I believe, so let's go ahead. So I guess they're making us wait for John Doyle, all right? Like, geez, come on. Okay, there you go. Flying. Oh my gosh, the ear rape. Oh my gosh.
Let's go!
All right. Oh, what the fuck?
We need the energy in this room to be off the charts, folks. Because if there's one thing that they fear more than anything in the world, it is the spirit. It is the willpower of the young American male patriots. It is so true. That is why they put estrogen in your foods, in your tap water. That is why they addict you to pornography. We've seen the dissertation, have we not? And if we love one thing more than anything, it is delayed gratification. And that's why they tell you that your masculinity is toxic. It's not. It's pretty epic, actually. But it is so true. See, I was waiting on that joke, but I'll say it now. You know, I said, if I'm the guy or whatever, I should speak first. And they said, no, because then it would be more obvious that we're just taking all of your talking points. I said, it's okay, that's fine. I'm joking. I joke, we do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling. To think that they can avoid the one eternal truth of global history, that there is nothing more powerful than a group of hyper-focused, motivated, convicted, passionate, and angry young men. And that is us. Is always the feminine man. Many such cases. And with any movement, rooted in good, any movement that threatens the established order, there is always going to be the mobilization of the weak against the strong. Because the corrupt ruling class will always mobilize the weak against the strong because of the established order that the weak perceive as necessary to their establishment. And so they're insecure with themselves. We know this. We know that leftism properly defined is the mass mobilization of the mentally ill, the spiritually ill. And so they just want to live in that comfortable system that they perceive is necessary to their survival, albeit their meaningless life. But nonetheless, we are going to be met with force because we pose a legitimate threat to that establishment. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we actually had our very first hit piece written about us. Congratulations. It's so true. And in this hit piece, they said that we're hateful people. Are we hateful people? No. It's so true, and they said that we are white nationalists. Now, Vince Dow is a lot of things. He is a man. He is a friend of mine. He is 5'5", but he is not. But he is not a white nationalist. He is Vietnamese. He's not even white. He doesn't meet the necessary prerequisite to being a white nationalist. He's barely able to participate in White Boy Summer by the skin of his teeth. Okay,
so if you see here, the optics are pretty good, and also if you keep in mind the energy and like the charisma he exudes is probably at the highest level of APU in general. So he definitely has. Like, the content of his speech isn't even that good, but you can tell he didn't put a lot of effort in it, but he definitely can carry it by his, not voice, but definitely the cadence and the delivery is really important here. So yeah, no, good. Now, in terms of the substance, again, not a lot of substance. I mean, the establishment fears us teenagers. I mean, yeah, that is sort of true. Insofar as, like, who are the people that are of fighting age, who are the people that are going to take over governments? I mean, it's obviously young men, but, definitely, that's not going to happen, right? I'm not endorsing that. I'm just saying, okay? So, yeah. Forgotten Gamers of America. That's the theme for Doyle, so let's keep going.
But you think that the white nationalists will be accepting to Vince Dow? I don't think so. I just don't. And so the real problem here is basically this, that most journalists are simply terrible people. It's true. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that any of us were reached out to for comments in this particular piece? We weren't. And it was written by a guy named Zachary Patrizzo, who not only did he not reach out to us for comment, he just blindly followed what some other guy said about us. Very cringe from Zachary. So he published this. I looked this guy up. He really just has an unfortunate face. I mean, let's be honest. It was not good. He actually looks like a marionette, like a puppet that was given sentience. Like, hey, we will give you sentience in exchange for selling out your nation. He was just like, okay, I guess we're doing that. So very unfortunate physiognomy. So I'm gonna give a Trump nickname. Zachary Pinocchio. We don't like him. He writes this piece, and there will be more pieces. There will be more slander and libel against us because, frankly, we are being effective. This is the first, I guess you'd say, conference. I don't know, was it a summit? That's the word. We've already been endorsed by a sitting congressman, and this was put together by a 16-year-old and someone who was 5'5". Look at what we did to this city with just a couple of phone calls and some speeches, folks. We now have a room packed full of very intelligent, very motivated people. It's overflowing, actually. We have people standing, millions of people in this room. In the event of a very young organization, the first event, which has already been endorsed, as we said, by the congressman, and they are afraid of us because we are going to win, and it feels good. Does it not feel good? Because we have been losing for decades, And we are seriously starting to see what the consequences of that look like, what the consequences of losing look like. But it doesn't even matter because we are still in this fight. The markets have shifted. The betting odds are a little bit unfavorable at this point. But they have not taken into account, as so few will, the most important variable of all, which is the will of the man to preserve that which is good. How about Elijah Schaffer for live streaming this for us? We love Elijah Schaffer, don't we? How about, we're getting some booze for Elijah Schaffer. Grow up. There's nobody in this room who has done more to advance my career and my personal relationship with God than Elijah Schaffer. So if you boo Elijah Schaffer, you boo me. And of course...
Oh, shit. So this is where the crowd plays a part, right? So he's saying, oh, I'm hearing some booze for Elijah Schaffer. You know what? Grow up, guys. He's done a lot for my career. That's honestly like a mask off moment. And I know a lot of leftists say this, but it is true. I mean, that's not the way that somebody, and again, he obviously didn't script this part. He just said that like out of his, like, he was thinking out loud. So he says, oh, guys, grow up. He's done the most for putting it ahead of my career. That's not a good thing unless you're a diehard fan of Doyle and it comes off as Machiavellian, and the teenagers in the room probably didn't feel that, but I definitely felt it, no homo, and definitely I got the vibe. I caught the vibe, so not a good look, but I don't think people picked up on it until but I mentioned it, so whoops. Anyways, so far so good. I think him also saying, oh, he brought me closer to Christ. I mean, a lot of these people care about that. That's good for the crowd.
Notice I spent a lot of time in this speech talking about young men in particular. I spent a lot of time on the channel talking about young men. It's not by accident, and I'm sure that I will explain it as we continue. But I want to talk a little bit about this organization first, what it means to be an American populist, and how I find myself headlining this as someone who is conservative. And so there have been a lot of debates over the last several decades of American politics, what it truly means to be a conservative. And what's interesting about that debate is that if you look at where the dissent actually comes from, it's literally just disaffected liberals who didn't necessarily like how progressive the left was becoming, but still wanted to bomb brown children. So they were like, yeah, let's be neoconservative. Let's go infiltrate that movement. And so you have to keep that in mind, that the people who are lecturing you on what it means to be a conservative are literally just disaffected liberals who maybe aren't, totally in support of being exactly on the page of where the left is going socially. They want to wait about 5 years, and they also want to have your sons and daughters die in the sand so that Middle Eastern girls can learn about gender theory and masturbation. So that's the type of people that we're dealing with effectively. And I've actually, I think, been described properly before as the CEO of conservative gatekeeping, which is a badge I wear very proudly. And so I would just like to take this opportunity to remind you that the only people who complain about gatekeeping are the people who the gate was supposed to keep out in the first place. I am a patriot. I'm a gamer. Be reduced to the following. Because an honest and thorough study of conservatism with all the relevant context knows it's not an allegiance to abstract ideas. Oh, so good. You would be able to afford a home. You would be able to afford to have. It would be nice. You would all attend the same church. Your neighbors would invite you to their gatherings. You would celebrate the same holidays. You would speak the same language. This was your country, and they took it from you without asking. In the last 60 years of American history, our country has become more dangerous. It has become less trusting. You can't get a well-paying job in this country without, or even an adequate paying job in this country without going and getting tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Oh, but what about the skilled trades? Yeah, but the Department of Education, because it was lobbied by these big corporations, removed all of those classes from public schools, so the kids don't even know about them. So it's unlikely that they even know that they exist, or they'll even have interest in them unless you got the boomer dad. Like, you should be a welder instead. So we've got that going for us. Our fathers are absent. Our sons are pussies. Our daughters are immodest. See, I wanted to say, someone had to say it. I wanted to say it, but I couldn't. We're numbing ourselves with drugs, we're smoking marijuana, we're abusing opiates, we're killing ourselves, we're committing suicide at record numbers, and we're less than a decade away from what will effectively be a one-party state. So what I'm asking you is this: is being able to purchase a flat-screen television for $50 less worth having been raped of the dignity of the American dream? Are we happy about that? We have been betrayed. And the only one worse than the enemy is the traitor. We don't like them. And that is why the conservative establishment exists. It is basically a form of controlled opposition. It exists because it is allowed to exist. It is the utmost form of controlled opposition. Any movement that actually has teeth, that actually has balls, that poses a threat to the conservative establishment is not allowed to exist. They disappear because the system is very good at preserving itself. And so it allows for the conservative establishment to exist because they'll tell you, well,
Okay, so now he's taking the conspiracy pill and he's saying, so the establishment is only allowed to, so the neoconservatives are only allowed by the establishment to be around because they are a ineffective counterbalance to the left. So I mean that isn't really true. And also he's saying any political movement that's right wing that has any teeth that disappears quickly because of the establishment and all that. I don't think that's true. The reason why they disappear is partly because the far right room, and I don't say far right as a bad thing or like that it's white nationalist or anything. I'm saying like far right as in like to the right of Donald Trump a little bit. So the reason why far right movements don't get far is usually because they are reactionary, and reactionary politics only works after a crisis, after a prolonged amount of time. So if the crisis doesn't last long enough, then you can't really milk it politically to start a new movement, first of all. And second of all, even if you can, again, so what portion of the country is actually to the right of Donald Trump? Maybe like 20 to 30%. So at that point, why would it be more popular than the establishment Republicans that have broader appeal, in my opinion? And also, if the establishment politicians are making money off of corporations and trying to keep their brand up, why would they let these conservative movement people who aren't as optical and who are farther right wing into the movement? So they're gatekeeping to keep themselves alive. So for the same reason that APU would ban Wignats and Richard Spencer people from APU is the reason why the neocons ban people like John Doyle and Red Eagle and others like that. So I mean, I think it's a fair game for them to do that, but again, they're not of the right political opinion, but the APU people are, so I guess that's the real cynical way of looking at it. So is John Doyle right? I mean, sort of. Anyways, I'm going to catch up with chat a little bit. N64 says, hi, Lalo, based Doyle, thanks for this. No, Lalo, it's so true, John Doyle is based. Yeah, John Doyle is indeed a very high-level
losing
IQ.
and doing so with principles. That's what it means to be a conservative, being a beautiful loser, because they know that with that mentality, we will always lose, and that's why we always have lost for the last 7 years or so. We have done nothing but lose. Name me one lasting conservative victory in the last 70 years, I will name you a dozen failures. It's just the reality of our situation. But when one man with silly hair came along, President Cheeto, my hero, we love President Cheeto. He comes along, actually poses a threat to the established order. Look at how they treated our beautiful president. Our beautiful President Cheeto. They berated him. They humiliated him because he posed a threat. It's true. He's a threat because he has the same spirit that every person in this room has, including, and in particular myself, which is basically that our allegiance is not to principle, it is not to abstraction. My allegiance is to people, to the American people, first and foremost, above all else. The American people must come first. And that's where the populism comes into play, because I'm not a populist in the sense that I want to give power to the people. People are dumb. No, I don't want to.
Based people are dumb, so true. N64 says, Lalo, don't be cringe. Okay. I'm not. No, okay, so he's saying, I'm not populist because I want to give power to the people. I mean, that is literally what it is, though. So, I mean, again, so half of the people in APU are saying, like, I'm not even populist in so-and-so way. So, I mean, it's kind of like defeating the purpose of APU as the branding. So, American Populist Union, but I think people are stupid, says John Doyle. I mean, he is correct, but again, naming it Populist Union probably wasn't a good idea then. So, I have to criticize him for that. And in terms of what populism he supports, I'll let him explain it himself before I say anything.
Why would I want to do that? People are basically dumb, and democracy is cringe. Read some Aristotle. But seriously, I'm a populist in the sense that I'm not a populist in the sense that I like reject elitism. I'm right-wing. I acknowledge hierarchy. I acknowledge nature. It's just basically the way that societies have always been constructed. They always will be, even at the time of the founding. When you look at Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, George Washington, they were all aristocrats. They were all extraordinarily wealthy. But the difference, and this is the key difference, is that they actually worked for the American people. They loved the American people. They structured the government to work for the American people, and they didn't sell it out on behalf of their own interests because they didn't work for themselves. They didn't work for demons, frankly, and that's why it worked. That's why we had a good thing going for quite some time. So that being said, I am a populist in the sense that I recognize that the elite class, the ruling class, has just become not only incompetent over time, but malicious. They have contempt for people like us. They view us as less cultured. They view us as less sophisticated.
Okay, so his contention is basically that I'm not even populist, or I'm populist only when the elite class is good, but since the elite class is bad for right now, I'm populist. So it's opportunistic populism, which I believe in too, because populism as a virtue isn't a thing. Populism in principle isn't a good thing either, but definitely you could use it in certain cases, right? So for example, I don't believe in raising taxes in principle, but in certain cases it might be the best option. So I don't believe in democracy. I don't really believe in giving people more power, but giving more people power when the elites and the people running the country are bad is actually a good thing temporarily. So that's probably why he believes in populism the way that he does, and I agree with him. He also says Minecraft is based, yeah, obviously, N64.
Whereas the vanquished will never stop asking himself for the rest of his life if he could have taken himself more seriously. The LARP is necessary. We have to take ourselves with irrational degree. Because maybe it was too late to experience it in its fullness, but at least we still had a relatively good experience growing up, right? We had fun, we had GameCube, we had pop punk music. It was a good time, but not anymore. Not anymore. You know, I grew up in Southeast Michigan. I retain my identity as a Midwestern nationalist. I will be back to lead the Great Lakes Federation. I will. But my childhood and my experience growing up, and I'm young enough so I remember it closely, and I kind of see where other people are kind of experiencing things a little bit differently. I feel very bad for them. Like everybody is depressed now. Everybody institutional power to people who literally work for Satan because they told you, hey man, just live and let live. And now your entire society is demoralized and depressed because you can buy guns and buy subscriptions to black.com, right? That's what freedom is. That's why Washington crossed the Delaware, right? That's why your grandfather watched his friends get mauled to death by MG42s over in Europe. So his grandson can inherit a country where he's taught from a very young age that he's evil and he should hate himself and he should. Are there any women in the audience? Delete the dating. Well, let's not get too excited about that, but let's delete the dating app. You give him the spotlight for 1 second. 1 second, you give him the spotlight. But it's true. But it's true. The young man, he's presented with these opportunities to interact with the women. It's on Tinder. Maybe he's not even talking to girls at all because he's got to be careful at the office. One wrong comment, he gets reported to HR. He loses his precious job. Or maybe he doesn't even talk to women at all. Does he really even care? Does he feel as though he has any ambition? Anything really going on in his life? Does he feel as though he has purpose? Society will tell him that the reason that he gets so upset isn't because his role in society has been displaced, but rather because of toxic masculinity, right? That he should instead just embrace this neo-androgynous culture that we cultivated, and maybe he should just kind of do that in the name of liberalism. Or maybe he just kills himself. Does anybody in this room know somebody who's committed suicide in the last 3 years? Put your hands up. That is not normal. That is not a symptom of a prosperous society. I don't care if we broke 4% GDP. I frankly don't. But anyways, we continue. Because it turns out that in order to be a man in America, the only feelings that you're really allowed to complain about are feelings of anxiety or depression. Like, oh, I'm depressed because this thing happened to me, or I'm anxious because this bad thing might happen to me. But if you dare embrace your masculine drive and you say, this bad thing is happening, and I'm actually going to push back against it. Well, no, you can't do that. That is toxic masculinity. You're not allowed to do that. They'll put you on the pills for doing that. They'll get you arrested for doing that even in some cases. Is that the American dream? Is that what we want? Are we having a good time? I haven't been having a good time since 2016. I will tell you that right now. It was so much fun. See, and that's why everyone gives me crap for liking Blink-182 so much. But Mark Hoppus said it best. 16 just held such better days. It was a great time. If I could go back to 1942, if I had a time machine, tell my grandfather that what he was fighting for, his country, what that would become, tell him, man, maybe it's not such a good idea to go over there, how grateful the future generations would be, how the country that he would leave behind would end up hating itself, how the children would be taught that it's the most evil thing in the world. Do you think he would believe me? No. He probably still would have gone over there because he would have been like, is that going to happen? No way. And he was mistaken, unfortunately, but it has. It has. And to add insult to injury now, as our last World War II veterans are leaving us, what are they doing? They are relabeling that myth, that story, the D-Day invasion, as the real Antifa, as if that stock of men would have sympathized with Antifa. They actually agree with us. That stock of men would agree with us on virtually every issue. But yet they are Antifa just because they went over to Europe or something. And that's really the sad part. It adds insult to injury. It's really just a disgrace because any semblance of masculinity that we have left in this country is either being crushed or it's a story that we use. I mean, think about it. How many of us at some point have had the Normandy pictures as our background on our computers or as our iPhones? It's an inspiring tale. And now even that is being taken from us and reoriented towards the narrative of the established order. Like, well, they were actually the real Antifa, the Normandy guys. But this is what happens. As they destroy what little masculinity we have left, they're going to rewrite all of our myths to fit their own narratives. And there are a few stories in American history as great as the D-Day invasion, and look at what they've done to it. They've perverted it. And 10 years from now, our children are going to be taught in their history classes that that was the real founding point of Antifa. They were the real Antifa soldiers, and all these people that are out here.
Yeah, okay, another good point from John Doyle. He's saying, so he's getting something that isn't really attacked by the left yet, and he's basically putting it into, like, what he's spinning it like if he were a leftist as well. So he's like the making a moral concern a simulation, right? He's saying, okay, D-Day, how can I make it a leftist narrative? He's going to say, well, they were fighting the Germans, and the Germans were fascist, therefore the people that were fighting the fascists were anti-fascist, which is a little silly, but I mean, I guess technically true. So they're basically saying they're going to gaslight into believing that us fighting World War II was actually really progressive and that the men that were fighting there were anti-German, when in reality, a lot of the people that fought the Germans in 1942 and 1944, specifically on D-Day, were probably in agreement on a lot more social issues than they are with their grandchildren now. So you could argue that that Sergeant Thomas Miller has more in common with Captain or the equivalent, Hans Gunther Guderian or whatever, than he does with his transgender attack helicopter grandson/granddaughter who has pink hair. Like, seriously. So, I mean, that's a good point. And it takes a high IQ to actually articulate something like that in a speech, like to say, like, okay, this is an example of what they're going to do in the future, and probably, give it a couple of years, they're probably going to do that too, once the World War II guys are more and more dead.
It's just not true, but nonetheless it will be taught. So you're a Nazi, what else is new? So at that point, any masculinity rooted in good, which is the only threat to the established order, will either be non-existent or it will be reoriented via that indoctrination and, like, literally mass alteration of our hormones, by the way. They are putting chemicals in the water, and they actually do turn the South African claw frogs gay. I don't know if you guys have seen the studies. It is true. Thank you. Yeah. Angry sweat man until they read. You can mark my words with that. And I use a lot of words, by the way, to describe the narrative, sort of this kind of vague term, but we're describing our enemies. Sometimes we're describing means they're going to do bad things to us, not in Minecraft. Conservatives always talk, well, communism killed 100 million people. Back and stand by. Well, it's done to people like us because we actually pose a threat to that system. But free society. However, being on the side of good without having...
See, I don't know why it went black. I assume that's the media's fault. Oh shit, I just started it over. I didn't know pressing 0 started the stream again. Or not the stream, but like actually the video. Okay, that's bizarre. Okay, I feel really weird now. Okay, so we're going to skip it ahead. I'm sorry. Hold on. So the screen goes black at some point, right? So I was like at the 240 mark, and then it went black. Hold on.
My friend, although you surely mean well, the war has already begun. It has begun
Hold on.
Before any of us were even born, probably. Maybe even our parents were born. And we're not witnessing symptoms of a battle.
So, I mean, there's no point in listening to him without the closed captions. Okay, there you go.
All of a sudden, the established order is telling you,
all right,
the greatest threat to your freedom is the Chinese Communist Party. The same way that they told you 20, 30 years ago, the greatest threat to your freedom and way of life is the Islamists. Remember like 6 years ago, when if you said radical Islamic terrorism, you were like cool or something? It's like, yeah, I agree with the CIA. Is the greatest system ever invented. I should end the sentence there. For the mass enslavement, I should say, of mankind. I should know. I run a show called Hack Off Commie, right? Are we familiar with like Hack Off Commie? It works. But anyways, the reason communism works so well for them is because it simultaneously creates and exploits weakness to be employed to further the consolidation. Embraces communism. They also invented communism if you trace its origins back. That was done by them and for them at the expense of the American people. And so the typical right-wing talking point is always, well, communism, if the elites like it so much, if Bernie Sanders likes it so much, then why does he have so much money? Why does he have so many houses? And it's like, because it isn't about equality, you idiot, it's about your enslavement. They want to enslave you. Don't you get it? Think about that. These don't have the internal monologue. They don't have agency. They have no depth. They have no conviction. And they're only concerned with maintaining the system that allows them to live in the academia. And they have long before we were all born. They've had all. Literally, they have contempt for people like us. And yet, despite that, 100 years from now, white pill imminence, no one will remember any of that. No one will remember any of their names, but what they will remember is the greatest story in the history of the world, which is the story of us taking back our country after it was built, lost, and then ultimately restored to be something greater than it ever was before. That's us. I know that a lot of us are too young to know this, but you used to be able to support a family of 5 in this country with a high school education. There are people alive in this country who remember that. Well, maybe they're like Joe Biden have dementia. That's a boomer joke. It's true. Maybe they forgot. I honestly, and I can't prove this, but I feel it, which makes me think it's true. I think that the destruction of California was a psyop. Like, it's the most beautiful state in the country, and they destroyed it to demoralize us. What can we be proud of if not California? California's ugly. The whole country's probably ugly. But they took it away from you. This country of ours, what was the greatest country in the history of the world, that was your birthright. That was earned by the sacrifices, millions of sacrifices that you will never hear about, and for which no one was ever thanked. Men died in order to give that to you, and they took it away from you. We are not depressed. We are angry. Are we a little bit angry? Yeah. And just as to truly have peace, you have to have the capacity for anger. To truly love, you must actually have the capacity for hate. To truly love, you have to be able to recognize your capacity for hate. And
Okay, that's kind of based. In order to love, you have to hate as well. That's so true. That is kind of true actually, because you have to be able to say, you know what, I love this country, but this is going to shit. I hate this part. I hate this LGBT. I hate this immigration that is slowly killing us. But yeah, very true so far. Now let me catch up with chat. So 821 is real. Yes, it is. Lala, will you make a video on the 714 impact in the midterms? I mean, if Vince Dow, if he personally tells me to, I'll think about it. But other than that, I mean, I'm not in Vince Dow's circle enough to like just do that unprovoked. You know, like I'm not gonna make a video about one of his memes, like lore about Vince Dow, if I don't even like maybe I'm like we have mutual friends, but like I'm not in the circle, so like maybe if he talks to me, then maybe I can make that as a joke video, but I probably wouldn't actually do that. So keep that in mind. So we'll keep going with it. We're gonna wrap up with John Doyle's speech real quick.
I love my country. I know it sucks right now, but I do love it. I mean, like that's literally gay right now, but I love it. I love it. I love it because it's my home. I love Southeast Michigan. I love the Great Lakes. I love the Smoky Mountains. I love the cities. I love Boston. I love the nature. I like the national anthem. It's actually, you know, when you listen to some of these other national anthems, it's one of the better ones. It's probably gonna change in the next 20 years. Download it on Spotify while you can, but it's actually pretty solid. And I hate the banks. I hate academia. I hate big tech. I hate the media. I hate the intelligence agencies. I hate the administrative state, and I hate the Antichrist. This king. If we pull this off, if we take our country back, do you know how epic that would be? What greater purpose could your life possibly have? If you were in a fist fight, right, and this guy was just beating the hell out of you, he's literally going to kill you, wouldn't it be time to, like, I don't know, kick him in his fucking balls? Fight back, fight dirty, politically speaking, because we have to take the country back. There's simply too much at stake to pull punches at this point. We have to win, because the price of defeat in the history of the world is the complete erasure from history. And the consolation prize is at best a disparaging footnote in the history books. Do we want these people to regard the United States of America as like something not cool? That for our country, for it to be wiped away from the global memory? We will be erasing all of those sacrifices. Every man who has ever shed blood for this country, it will have been for nothing if we don't step up right now. Like, I mean, I guess this really is the right thing to do by them, I would say. We have to do right by those men. It is what they fought for. Your heart has to be in this, because the only permanent thing in the world is essentially impermanence, right? Like, you are only defeated when you have either consented to the because we the people, and we will be the people to save this nation from the greatest threat that it's ever faced, more than the British, more than the Germans. Phone. True. He was teaching at Duke, he was teaching political science at Duke, and he told me one time that he kind of realized that he would have to be comfortable in the knowledge that maybe his impact would only be that he inspires other people who can actually achieve something tangible. Maybe he wouldn't himself do anything significant, but perhaps he could inspire somebody who could. And there's nobody, and I mean this sincerely, who I'd rather be in this fight with. And everybody always says, oh, we're going to fight. Buy my Tumblr because we're in the fight. And they're allowed on Facebook.com, right? So we're actually in the fight because that is the prerequisite. And I don't believe that there's a gathering of people in this country right now who is of better character and better relationship with God than in this room right now. Congratulations. It is us. At this point, and admittedly it's taken a while to kind of get into this, is that I don't fear the left, I don't fear communists, I don't fear getting canceled, I don't fear being targeted, I don't fear death, I just fear defeat. I fear in my because we have to win, because the American people are all that matters. When we win, which we're going to, it'll be the greatest story the world has ever known. And nonetheless, the result of our efforts will be when I am the king of America, the first king of America, at 9 a.m., sign some piece of paper that says a statue of King Cheeto in every major city in the country. Class-based. That's what they believe. The baby boomers on the right, we love them, but they'll tell you that history has just been one eternal conflict between Democrats and Republicans, right? The Democrat Spartans, the Republican Persians, it's always just been that one conflict. But we know, because we're smart, that this is actually a spiritual war. We know that it is between good and evil. The tale as no, I don't think so, because we can't just stand by and do nothing anymore. We have to carry the torch of those who came before us, because we have to long road, and frankly, it's the road that ultimately is only going to lead us to God knows, right? We really don't know what we're doing. Vince now talking about, hey, tell us the plan. I am 21, okay? I'm doing my best. I don't know what the plan is. But the two most important takeaways from that, it doesn't matter who we are. The two most important takeaways from that, though, are that we are with each other, united together. Know that that's how they win. I oftentimes, and maybe this is blasphemous, but I kind of like to think of God as almost like the eternal troll, right? Like allowing the enemy to pollute the society with evil, allowing for the demonic forces to manifest. Maybe this is wrong, but I do personally take a little bit of pleasure in telling the journalists, like, this is what we're going to do. It is going to happen. Inevitable. That's the one I'm looking for. We are awake. We are breaking the conditioning. We're using the ProPure filters on our tap water, and we are angry. So journalists, just know that we are going to make America prosperous again. We're going to make America safe again. We are going to make America proud again. We are going to make America Christian again. We are going to make America based again. And we are going to make America great again. Let's go!
There you go. That is the speech. Let me mute it before I get copyright for Lupe Fiasco music from 2011. I think the lights go on. Yeah, okay. Or the show goes on. Yeah, that's what it is. So that it is, and it is what it isn't. All right. So here we go. That is all of it. Geez, that was so long. That took forever, but finally I'm here at the end to tell you what I need to tell you collectively, and that is that we watched Vince speak, we watched High Clip speak, we watched Congressman Sabatini, future Congressman probably, and also future Congressman Joe Kent. We saw Gavin Mario Wax, who's I think the chairman of the New York Republicans or something along those lines. Also, we had who else? We had Shashank Yalamanchi, who is the Indian guy who is the founder of APU, more or less. And we also have Nathaniel Abbott's speech. We have David Carlson's speech, DC Perspective. We have other people such as that. So that is what it is. I'm going to put this slide on something that is more generic like this while I finish the review. So far I'll break it down piece by piece. So we start out with the terrible audio quality, and that is a bad look, unprofessional, but again, that was an accident, or, it was a mistake. Obviously, no malice there. So if this were skilled on a base of 1 to 10, I'd just take 1 point off because of that. And then we move on to the Vince Dow speech. The Vince Dow speech, besides the audio issues, most people seem to have liked it. I liked it. It was fine. So you could rate that speech, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, whatever you want. Then you move on to, I believe, the Kai Clip speech. The Kai Clip speech was probably, for the people that were watching it, probably like a 7 or an 8. The aesthetic was fine. Now, what I do have a problem with is some of the points he made, but only I think the way I think, right? So, if you're not very big brain, then it should be just fine. So I'm just nitpicking, his AP calculus results, and, nobody besides a bunch of Asian nerds really know what's on that paper. So in that case, I'll just assume you guys are okay with that. So that speech was above average delivery and all that. We move on, and again, we don't really have audio issues besides certain little key points that are irrelevant. Next, after Kai Clips, we might have like a congressman or something. Nathaniel Abbott was the next actual in-person speech. That speech was good. I think the masculinity point was necessary. I think the optics were fine. I also think that some of the points he was making were funny to the people there, not funny to me, but I'm not the demographic. Well, I am the demographic, but I'm not also like one of those people that would be like, oh my god, that's so funny, the ukulele shit, oh my god. But anyways, we have David Carlson from the DC Perspective. David is pretty good on the issues. I'm glad he brought up he rendered them unto their lust or whatever. So basically covering a bunch of sins and talking about the Bible in a way that most conservatives wouldn't. So that's a key point as well. That went well. Then you could also say that let me think of, okay, so you have the actual on-screen speeches. They were pretty forgettable, honestly. Gavin Mario Wax, again, average. He wasn't there in person, not a big deal. Then you had Sabatini, pretty average as well. Joe Kent, pretty average as well. And by average, I mean like they're good, but I'm holding them to a higher standard because obviously I'm nitpicking because this is like a very niche right-wing group. So I'm being very nitpicky. So that's fine. So that went okay. Then we move on to Red Eagle, and Red Eagle had a great speech. I think he had probably the second best speech there. I think he hit a lot of good points, a lot of those points that were necessary to make, the single motherhood, the immigration, the election, a little bit stuff like that, Donald Trump, 2016, the decline, the advisor, something like that. So certain things like this. Another complaint I would make is like the fans were interrupting too much. Speaking too much during the speeches, or that one guy that stood up on Red Eagle, and that was pretty annoying. And he, told them where he said, sit down. That little bitch sat down. That's reasonable. Okay, so I think, okay, so I'll dock 1 point. Wait, I'll get to the final speech actually first. So Red Eagle did a good speech. Then we had John Doyle, and John Doyle obviously took too long to get on the podium in the first place. But after he did, I think he did pretty well. I think he was really articulate, and I think that the charisma was really carrying in the speech. The substance in and of itself was not that profound. I think that a lot of it was just regurgitating like talking points that he usually does for like fun, like ironically, like bro Discord stuff. But I mean, he did have some good points in there, just like Nathaniel Abbott did. So in that case, that was a good thing. So I'll rate the speeches one by one now. I'd say you could give Vince a 6. You could give Kai Clips a 7. You can give David Carlson a 6 too. You could also give Nathaniel Abbott a 5. You could give Red Eagle an 8. You can give John Doyle an 8.5. So if you were to add all these up, so we're talking 8 and 8.5 is 16.5. You could give 2 6s, that's 12, that's 30.5. Then you could get 1 7, that's 37.5, and then 1 5 is 42.5. Divide that by, I believe, 6 different people. That's an average speech score of 7. I could be wrong, but it's about 7.1, something like that. So that it is what it is. So this was an above average set of speeches. That was pretty good. I didn't rate Sabatini and all that. I don't care. So that is my APU review. I overall enjoyed it. I think that this is an important, vital step for them, is to have summits and doing stuff in person. And so far, the Tampa, Florida thing was pretty successful. I'm pretty impressed by the people that did it. I think by and large that hosting something on short notice like that was pretty cool insofar as they pulled it off pretty well. And I hope that the second one they do, if there is a second one, that it'll be higher quality, obviously without the mic issues and the audio quality problems. But I'm going to assume that the boomer tech gets resolved next time. So that should boost the score up overall. So as of right now, out of 10, I would say in general, compared to TPUSA, this was probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. But given the fact that this is the first event and that they didn't really have a budget and all that, I'll give them an 8. Things went very well, other than for the audio issues. So because of that fact, I would probably give it a solid B+. This was pretty good. I'm not going to lie, though. Some of the points I disagreed with, but I mean, this is politics, so I can nitpick all I want all day. So because of that fact, I'm not going to count that in too much. So that is my review. I gave my word earlier to some of the people involved with the APU event that I would cover it, and I did. So I decided to, once that I happen to have a couple hours of free time to myself, and so I can be as loud as I want on the mic, and I can fully live stream this for you guys. And I plan to upload this as its own video for posterity, for in general, to have a reference on the APU reviews, that I will have the longest stream on it. So that's going to be good. And I hope everybody enjoys it. If you are anybody associated with APU, I didn't run this video through anybody before any of you guys. Keep that in mind. So, also, I don't hate any of you guys, so like if you guys got like insulted somehow, I like, no offense, okay? I'm just criticizing here. Yeah, so if you think like, oh, this guy's like so petty, he's nitpicking everything, yeah, I think that's sort of the point though, right? I'm trying to like nail down any little thing I don't like. So because of that, I'm being a little harsh. But overall, guys, this was good, solid stuff. I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of the video. This has been going on for easily over 2 hours. And for that, I have to appreciate whoever's still here, right? This has been almost 2 hours. Very long range stream. I hope everybody enjoyed it this far. I think that I can make more long form content like this going forward. I start college tomorrow, so keep that in mind. I will upload this at some point soon. And so comment down below what you think of the actual American Populist Summit Union or whatever. Comment down below who you think had the best speech. Also keep in mind that that you can comment down below any suggestion for a video, and I'll almost definitely see it and take that into account, so you can really influence the channel going forward. I also have some comments I need to catch up on. So Kaiser Conquer H says, have any other social media? My Twitter got struck down, or it got permanently suspended for a reason that is understandable to the left, obviously, but I was being a little bit unoptical. I may or may not have called somebody a fat homo. I mean, I don't think that's a bannable offense in my opinion. I don't think that violated the rules, but anyway, I appealed and nothing has happened, and that happened, I think, 3 weeks ago, so it's pretty much a goner. So yeah, and then in terms of like other social media, the only social media that I use that's affiliated with the channel, this channel, is the Twitter, but the Twitter was taken down, so RIP that. Everything else that's my social media is probably private, so don't, yeah, so also I do have a Discord. If you want to know what the Discord is, I guess I can give it to you. But other than that, I should not have any other public social media for YouTube purposes. Another thing was, please do more presidential reviews. Honestly, in terms of presidential reviews, I don't want to make too many more because, well, okay, I can, but I actually bothered editing those. I remember on Windows Movie Maker that I used certain clips, and I really hate editing, but I've never tried editing with this computer. Now, the problem I have with this computer is that my mouse, like the laptop is good, but the mouse I have is getting old, and I have a hard time clicking on it. So if and when I buy a new mouse, I'll consider doing a more click-intensive stuff. And so because of that fact, maybe in a couple weeks, if I get a new mouse, maybe in a couple months, I'll get back to making the presidential reviews. I have a lot of people that I haven't covered yet. I could theoretically do a Donald Trump presidential review given the fact that he's done being president as far as I know, but maybe a second term could change that. What else? I could make a presidential review on, I think, Obama. I don't think I did one on Obama. If not, I could also do, I mean, Joe Biden doesn't really count because he's still in office, unfortunately. Okay, and then N64 says, I only watched John Doyle. Okay, that's okay. Hold on, let me get the Discord for you, friend. Hold on, this is coming. Now, keep in mind that the Discord I mainly use for like my internet friends. So I don't have a Discord like a server. I just use Discord on my own. So keep that in mind. But I'll give it to you right now. I'll comment down in the I'll use my other account for all purposes here. So I have two accounts. The one with the political compass is not my YouTube channel, but it is like my other account I use to watch YouTube. So I'm gonna put it on here. It should be. Hold on. Okay, so you have a profile picture of Teddy Roosevelt. That's interesting. I know that Teddy has a universal appeal for whatever reason. So, okay, so it's going to be Lalo hashtag. Then I'm going to type it in here, and it should be pretty easy for you to add. Just copy and paste it into the search thing, and it should be pretty easy from there. I'll try to add you as a friend, and we can probably talk on there if you want to talk on there. I don't know. Keep that in mind. So, yeah. So I'll give you guys a minute to put in any more comments if you want. Otherwise, this is going to be done. Okay, keep that in mind. All right, I'll give you guys less than a minute here. Yeah, so the APU event, solid stuff. I don't want to repeat myself over and over again. I'm trying to stretch this video out to 2 hours so I can have a flat number, easier on the eyes. I'll try to edit this a little bit. Maybe I'll cut out the beginning and the end, and maybe I'll put a thumbnail on it that's more professional. If not, then I won't. And yeah, TVN64 says bye. Yeah, bye, dude. Kaiser Conqueror, tell me if you've added me, or maybe the Discord will tell me if you've added me. I've given you the name tag for it, so if it doesn't work, I don't know what else would work, so keep that in mind. Yeah, and in terms of the viewership so far for the channel, so right now I have 6 viewers. That's less than 1% of my subscriber base, but that's pretty typical. But yeah, Kaiser Conqueror H says, you are so underrated. Why aren't you with APU? Well, I appreciate that. Why aren't I with APU? Well, I could have signed up several months ago if I wanted to, but I didn't. And the only reason, yeah, I just haven't because I wanted. Okay, that's a tough one. I mean, I could join APU if I wanted to, and it'd be pretty easy. But I don't see what the point is. And I mean, if they offered me like if I could be on the same level as like, let's say, the people that gave speeches, right? Like if I could be on David's level in APU, and they offered it to me, I would take it, obviously. But I wouldn't join APU for the sake of joining APU as like some other guy. So I mean, so keep that in mind. And I don't want to be like an asshole, but you know, so if they let me join APU like at a higher status than the normies, then I'll consider joining. If not, then I don't see what the point is of just joining it and being like all these other guys in the crowd. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm not asking for a position, but if they offer me one, I'll consider it. Yeah, I mean, I like APU. There's nothing wrong with joining it. If you want to, just that as of right now, it's not very convenient for me to do it now. You know, I'm starting college, so if I'm gonna do stuff with my free time, I have to be a little more critical about what I'm doing with my time. So TV N64 says, because Lalo's a neocon. I mean, the neocon thing is kind of ironic. It is kind of a joke. So it is somewhat of an inside joke with me and Red Eagle, but ultimately, I wouldn't say I'm a neocon. It is very nuanced, though, of course. Please don't know neocons allow, so they don't let neocons in. Yeah, whatever. I'm not a neocon, but I mean, it is kind of a joke. So ironically, I am a neocon, just like how Vince is ironically 5'7", you know, but he's really 5'5". Whatever, guys. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Finally, this is the last time I'm going to say that for now. Greatly appreciated. Comment down below if you have anything to say. Otherwise, I am out of here. Thanks. I'm out. Bye.